Chapter 79. Mountain Mist. Boom. With a single punch, a huge crater appeared on the flat ground. Looking at the little guy standing in the hole, the giant boar's eyes showed a trace of fear. "Don't come here again, do you understand?" Garashi's voice was gentle and soft, but in the giant boar's ears, it was like a demon's whisper. Just as it was about to escape back to the familiar warmth of the forest, it heard the terrible voice behind it. "Before you go, please fill up this hole." Umph, umph. The giant boar hummed a few times and began to fill up the hole. On the side, Asma couldn't help but be speechless. "I was thinking about how to make it understand our words. It seems that violence is the best way to communicate." Kurenai turned to look at him. "Why do you sound like you have a lot of feelings?" Asma waved his hand. "I didn't know that smoking is harmful to health, but after being caught by the old man, I understood." Kurenai's mouth twitched. "I always feel that the health you speak of is not the same as the health people speak of." On the other side, Garashi clapped his hands. "Well, the mission to expel the beast is completed," Asma said excitedly. "This time it's my turn to choose the mission." For Garashi and the other two, even a sea-level mission was not difficult at all. In the past 5 months, they have completed 97 sea-level missions. If it weren't for the fact that they were interspersed with some relatively long escort and investigation missions, the number would have been even higher. Even for the B-level missions, they have completed 3 of them with their Yamanaka-sensei's identity. Just as they were discussing using their accumulated contribution points to exchange for a B-level ninjutsu, an inverted straight monster came to them. "Garashi-sensei, good morning. Do you want to walk with me?" Bushy Eyebrows asked with one hand upside down and the other hand giving a thumbs up. "No, we still have to go turn in the mission." Garashi firmly refused. Although he didn't have the burden of being an idol, he didn't want his image to be destroyed. "You've completed another mission." Metkai's voice was full of envy and immediately refreshed. "I still have a long way to go. In order to reward myself for recognizing reality, I'll add 2,000 push-ups this morning." Asma's eyes widened. "Are you sure this is a reward for yourself?" "Of course, this is hot-blooded youth." Metkei raised his shining mouth and suddenly remembered something. "By the way, Sensei, Yamanaka-sensei, Jonin seems to be looking for you. Is there another mission?" The 3 of them looked at each other, suddenly excited. Naruto's office. "Yamanaka-sensei, Yamanaka-sensei, Yamanaka-senseis, Yamanaka-sensei, Yamanaka-Yamanaka, Yamanaka-sensei." Difficult task. Asuma's eyes lit up and immediately cheered. "Old man, Hokage-sama is great. Don't be happy too early, this mission is not so easy to complete." Sandame took out his smoking gun and introduced, "You need to escort a batch of emergency supplies to the grass country. If you proceed normally, the mission level is B." Sandame's voice paused and his eyes suddenly became serious. "But if there are changes, the mission is likely to be upgraded to A." Hearing this, everyone's breathing quickened. A. Under normal circumstances, only a Jonin is qualified to take on an A-level mission. Even Yamanaka frowned. "Naruto-sama, although the 3 of them are geniuses, it's too early to take on such a dangerous mission." "I know, so I specifically asked you to come here today to ask for your opinion." Sandame raised the brim of his hat. "You don't have to rush to give me an answer, first listen to me in detail. The grass country is our ally, and at the same time, it is located on the border between the fire country and the earth country. Its geographical location is particularly important." The 4 listened carefully, and they all understood that the so-called ally was just an official term on the surface. The real situation was actually a subordinate country under the control of Woodleaf. But recently, there have been some subtle changes in the commission from the grass country. At the same time, they have ordered a lot more military supplies from Woodleaf than usual. Yamanaka's eyes were dignified. "Military supplies? Explosive charms, kunai, shurikens, military food pills, and so on. According to them, it's to deal with the increasingly rampant bandits and rebellious ninjas in the grass country." Sandame nodded slightly and immediately showed a worried look. "If it's really to deal with bandits and rebellious ninjas, it's okay, but I'm afraid that these supplies will eventually flow to another place." Yamanaka asked, "Are you worried that the rock Crypsis is behind this?" Sandame sighed. "If the grass country really falls to the rock Crypsis, once a war breaks out, Woodleaf will be in a very passive situation. However, there is no actual evidence to prove all this, so your hidden mission is to inquire about information." Yamanaka frowned. "If the grass country really falls to the rock Crypsis, then this mission is too dangerous." Sandame shook his head. Of course there will be danger, but it's not as serious as you think. Inoki has always been insidious and forbearing. With his character, he will only hide behind the scenes and reap the benefits. It's absolutely impossible for him to take the initiative to ignite a war. I understand all this, but... Yamanaka asked in a deep voice, why them? Because they are all geniuses and Asma is even my son. Sandame's face was rarely cold. Only by letting them go Rock Crypsis won't be suspicious. Yamanaka couldn't refute, because he also knew that such a decision was the right one. Yamanaka-sensei, don't worry. Asma himself was full of confidence. It's just to inquire about information, nothing will happen. Yamanaka Inoichi's eyes twitched wildly. Because of what you said, I'm even more worried. Garashi said, in fact, Naruto asked us to accept the mission because of the Flying Thunder God. It's because the previous missions were too easy. I've never used the Flying Thunder God in an official mission. Not many people know that I can use the Flying Thunder God, so Rock Crypsis shouldn't be able to get this information. In other words, if the situation develops to a point of no return, we can use the Flying Thunder God technique to quickly escape. Sandame nodded slowly. He narrowed his eyes and asked, tell me your final answer. Do you want to accept this mission? Seeing all three of them looking at him with firm eyes, Yamanaka Inoichi could only smile bitterly. We'll take this task. Chapter 80. 3 days later, early in the morning. At the door of the mission center. Yamanaka Inoichi reminded with a serious face, check to see if all the necessary supplies are complete? Explosive charms, flash grenades, shurikens, blood-boosting pills, soldier food pills. Shushi checked his toolkit without hesitation. Asuma, who was listening from the side, was stunned. Why did you bring so many things, Shushi? Also, why did you bring blood-increasing pill as a medical ninja? Garashi shook his head gently, it's better to be prepared. Who can guarantee that these things won't be used in battle? Also, even if I'm a medical ninja, there will always be a time when I run out of chakra, or it's too late to make hand seals. That seems to be the case. Asma clapped his hands, wait for me, I'll go buy it now. No need, I brought 2 more. Garashi stopped him and took out a small bottle and handed it over. Ah, Garashi, you know me best. Asma didn't feel awkward at all and took it. Garashi smiled helplessly and then looked at Kurenai. Kurenai, what about you? Kurenai put her hands behind her back. Hee, I'm not as reckless as Asma. Garashi still sent the small bottle over. I made this myself, and the effect should be slightly better than the average blood-increasing pill. Then I'll take it too. Kurenai happily accepted it and then took out a small cloth bag and handed it to Garashi. Garashi, this is also the soldier food pill I made myself. Thank you, it seems that I'm lucky in this mission. Seeing Garashi accept the soldier food pill she made, Kurenai was happy, and then she saw a palm open to her. What's wrong? Soldier food pill? Kurenai's mouth twitched slightly. Why do you think you have it too? Asma was distressed. Garashi made 2 for us, how can you only make 1? Hong rolled her eyes at him. What about you? Have you made anything for us? Asma froze and asked weakly, are the cigarettes that I made myself okay? Golden binding technique. Garashi, save me. Looking at the fight between the disciples, Yamanaka Inoichi's mouth also showed a smile. It's good to be young. At this moment, a somewhat stout merchant ran towards them. Are you the ninjas who are escorting us back to the land of grass? I'm really sorry for making everyone wait. We actually just arrived. That's good, that's good. The stout merchant nodded again and again, looking very friendly. I am Shigeru Kitahara. Thank you for your hard work over the next few days. Yamanaka Inoichi replied, you are too polite. This is what we should do. Our caravan has already gathered at the gate of the village. I'll go and arrange it first. When you are ready, you can leave at any time. After that, he ran in the direction he came from. When he left, Asma whispered, this time the employer is really easy to talk to. I feel that he is a little afraid of us. Yamanaka Inoichi smiled, of course he has to be polite. After all, ninjas killing their employers is not unheard of. Let's go, don't let our employer wait too long. Counting the caravan's own guards, there were more than 50 people. Such a number was enough to make some mountain bandits flinch. At least in the land of fire, the caravan was unimpeded all the way. But on the 3rd day, after entering the land of grass, in just a few kilometers of travel, they encountered 3 waves of bandits. Especially the 3rd wave, even ninjas appeared. Looking at the battle ahead, Kitahara Shigeru's hands and feet trembled a little. Carefully weighing his words, he asked, Yamanaka Jonin, this time there seems to be ninjas among the bandits. Isn't it inappropriate to let those little ninjas deal with it alone? Yamanaka Inoichi smiled and patted him on the shoulder. Kitahara-sama, you may have some misunderstandings about the strength of Woodleaf Genin. Don't worry, just watch quietly. In the field, Garashi and the other two were cutting the grass. Although there were ninjas among the enemies and there were warriors like the Land of Iron who could use chakra, the ninjas of the 5 major countries and the ninjas of the small countries were not the same concept. Not to mention, Garashi and the other two were absolute geniuses among the 5 major countries' ninjas. In just a short while, the enemy died out amidst howls of despair. These bandits are too weak. I only used a great fireball to scare them. Asuma grumbled, not enjoying himself to the fullest. Yes, I feel like throwing a few shurikens can drive them away. Kurenai nodded. Garashi shook his head helplessly. The enemies are already dead, let's leave them some dignity. In the caravan, Kitahara Shigeru and the others widened their eyes. Too powerful? Is this the power of Woodleaf Genin? Why do I feel that the Chunin of Kusagakure is not necessarily as powerful as them? The Chunin who escorted us was injured halfway and died shortly after reaching the Land of Fire. The previous 2 waves of bandits weren't too many, so they couldn't see anything. However, the group of enemies earlier was already considered a famous bandit in the grass country. Even so, they were still defeated by the 3 children as if they were vegetables. As a caravan they have seen ninjas before, but those ninjas in their impression didn't seem to have this kind of strength at all. Thinking of this, everyone became more enthusiastic. After going on the road again, the tense atmosphere in the caravan became much more relaxed. On the side, Asuma was a little depressed. There are too many bandits in the land of grass. Now I wonder if the old man's judgment is wrong. Yamanaka Inoichi laughed. If their arms and supplies are really bought to deal with the bandits, then we don't have to worry. Yes, the most important thing is that the village is not threatened. Asuma also gave up the idea of upgrading the mission and smiled, but it would be better if we could meet some bandits with Chunin. That kind of large-scale bandits is not so easy to meet. Just as Yamanaka Inoichi was explaining, Shushi suddenly said, more robbers are coming and there are more of them than before. Asuma said excitedly, there really are. Yamanaka Inoichi looked weird. I shouldn't have awakened any strange attributes, right? At this time, everyone also saw the situation in front of them. A large group of ferocious-looking bandits were chasing after a delicate-looking youth. Looking at the forehead protector on the boy's head, he seemed to be a ninja from Kusagakure. The boy also noticed the situation here and quickly changed his direction while shouting, you run, don't worry about me. However, the bandits stopped chasing for a while. Haha, this kid seems to have helped us find a group of fat sheep. Eat meat first, revenge next time. In the trembling caravan, Garashi and the other 2 looked at each other and exchanged glances. Why do I feel like you've said this before, Garashi? Chapter 81. Seeing that the bandits were no longer chasing him, the Kusagakure boy turned back. You scum, don't drag unrelated people into this. The bandit leader sneered, little ninja, don't think too highly of yourself. For us, hatred is never the first thing. The Kusagakure boy shouted angrily, damn it, I will throw you all in prison. Seeing this situation, the bandits laughed and ridiculed him. Prison? We are so scared. Don't laugh, do you think you will have a future? In the caravan, Kurenai whispered, these developments seem to be the same as the stories you told before, Garashi. Garashi narrowed his eyes. It's still a little different, at least these bandits don't seem to be acting. Asuma was also nervous. Have we been discovered? Are there rock Crypsis ninjas lying in ambush around? Garashi shook his head slightly. It should be a routine test, otherwise it won't be these bandits. Asuma nodded and asked, what should we do? Let's just follow the normal development. Garashi paused and added, rock Crypsis is likely to know our information, so don't deliberately hide your strength. Of course, I'm talking about the strength you usually show. Understood. On the other side, the bandits seemed to be beginning to get impatient. Enough said, let's send them to hell. These caravans didn't cry and beg for mercy, it's really strange. The Kusagakure boy rushed up angrily, damn it, I won't let you do this. Fire release, heavenly prison flame sword. Seeing the other party waving a flame sword, the bandits suddenly scattered and fled. Be careful of his flame. What about the archers? Shoot. Asuma was a little surprised. This Kusagakure ninja is quite powerful, so are we going to fight? Let's start. Fire release, great fireball technique. Magic, Fox's mind, X2. Although it was only a C-class ninjutsu, Under the skillful cooperation of Garashi and the other two, the bandits didn't have time to react and nearly half of them were killed. To be able to use such a powerful ninjutsu so quickly, is there a jonin among the enemy? The bandit exclaimed in horror. Asma, who was in the middle of making hand seals, was stunned. Fireball jutsu is considered a powerful ninjutsu? Are these bastards mocking me? Thinking of this, his hand seals sped up. Seeing that these bandits were either swallowed by the flames or fell down like they lost their souls, the Kusagakure boy also showed a trace of shock in his eyes. So powerful, their jonin didn't even make a move. I'm already considered the most powerful genius in Kusanagi, but with Leaf's 3 people are no weaker than me. Is this the strength of the great country? Trying to suppress the complicated thoughts in his mind, he also rushed up and joined the mowing team. At night, the bonfire crackled. I'm really sorry for the trouble, the Kusagakure boy said with embarrassment. My name is Wuwei, I'm a genin of Kusagakure. Yamanaka Inoichi smiled. My name is Yamanaka Inoichi, and these 3 are my disciples, Shimizu Garashi, Kurenai, and Asma. They are all genin like you. Wuwei was amazed and said enviously, you guys are really powerful. I'm a few years older than you, but I'm only a genin. Aha, it's just SOSO. Asma, who was reminded, said, by the way, San, where are your companions? Wuwei shook his head with a wry smile. The number of ninjas in Kusagakure is limited, and we can't team up like you. Is it so difficult? Asma touched his head, inexplicably feeling like he was in the countryside. Garashi asked, well, San, why are those bandits chasing you? I seem to have heard them mention hatred. Hearing Garashi mention this issue, Wuwei became a little lonely. Most of them were once prisoners of the Ghost Light Castle, and my clan was the prison guard who supervised them. Ghost Light Castle? Kurenai was a little confused. Is this the prison of your Kusagakure? Wuwei's face was slightly gloomy. This kind of thing you people of the 5 major countries don't know? Yamanaka Inoichi explained, Ghost Light Castle was built by the Kusagakure village, and it was a prison for ninjas who committed crimes. Then why did you entrust Kusagakure? Asma understood halfway. This kind of dangerous prison, of course, can't be placed in the territory of a major country. After thinking it through, he awkwardly changed the topic and asked, how did these people escape? Is it because of the war? Garashi sighed softly. His voice was gentle and soft, as if it could trigger the most painful memories in people's hearts. Yes, it's because of the war. Wuwei's handsome face became distorted. The war spread to Ghost Light Castle, part of the prison was destroyed, and the prisoners killed the prison guards and escaped. Yamanaka Inoichi thought with a dignified face, their clan's fire release can imprison the enemy's chakra. It's reasonable to say that even if some of the prisoners escaped, it's impossible to kill the prison guards, unless the prison guards who imposed the restraints on those prisoners happen to be affected by the war, or there are other ninjas involved. Isn't it funny? He was supposed to be a prison guard for those big countries, but he was casually abandoned by them. Even a dog wouldn't. Halfway through his sentence, Wu Wei suddenly realized something. Wait, what's wrong with me? How did I become so irrational? Was it stimulated by their talent? Noticing the complex expressions on their faces, Wu Wei quickly shook his head with a bitter smile, making a painful and confused gesture. Sorry, I lost my mind a little. However, we can only accept things that are forced upon us without even knowing the reason. Then, we have to continue living without even knowing the reason. Perhaps this is the fate of creatures like us. Fate? Believing in this kind of thing will only make you weak. Garashi's tone was firm and powerful. I always believed that we were born to change the world. Oh, is that so? Wu Wei reluctantly squeezed out a smile and said with some sarcasm, as expected of a ninja from Woodleaf, you can easily say things that people like us who live in the gutter can't even think about. I will say this because I have also wandered in the darkness. What did you say? When I was 3 years old, the war destroyed everything I once had. I understand the pain and despair, but I also know that if I become dispirited and depressed because of it, my family, who became stars, will cry because of it. Shushi was lost in his own thoughts as he reminisced about the past. When I was 3 years old, the war destroyed everything I had. I understand the pain and despair. Even if I live in the gutter, I still have the right to look up at the stars. Wu Wei's eyes were shocked and he muttered to himself, look up at the stars? Can people like us really do it? Chapter 82. At night, insects and birds were quiet. Wu Wei slept on the ground, but he couldn't fall asleep. Fake, it's all fake. What starry sky? It's simply an unrealistic fantasy. Personal fate may be changed, but the future of the grass country has long been doomed. No matter how hard we try, we can only struggle to survive in the cracks of the big countries. But, is it really useless? If I can become a strong man like Hanzo of the Rain Country, maybe I can protect the village. Impossible, my talent may be the strongest in the grass village, but any three of Woodleaf's genin are not weaker than me. It's impossible for me to become that kind of strong man with such ordinary talent. What should I do? Wu Wei's eyes were confused, looking at the boundless starry sky and talking to himself. Father, if it's you, on the other side, Garashi was resting with his eyes closed. Suddenly, a voice sounded from the bottom of his heart. Don't be nervous, I'm Yamanaka Inoichi, and now I'm using the Yamanaka clan's secret technique to communicate with you. Long story short, that Wu Wei seems to be hiding part of his strength. Considering this, he is likely to be an undercover of the rock crypsis. Silence, 1 second, 2 seconds, Yamanaka Inoichi couldn't help but ask, why don't you talk? By the way, you can talk as long as you think it in your heart. Asma couldn't hold it anymore, and after knowing the method he quickly said, haha, I already knew he was undercover. Yamanaka Inoichi was stunned. Already knew? He was only able to judge based on his rich experience. Since when did Asuma have such a keen eye? Asuma chuckled. It's not just me. Even Shushi and Red know about it. Yamanaka Inoichi's body outside his spiritual consciousness couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. So, except for him who didn't know he was exposed, all of us knew and we were all cooperating with him. At this moment he inexplicably felt that the boy named Wu Wei was a little pitiful. Asuma laughed. Who asked him to treat us like fools and fool us? However, Garashi is still the most overboard, tricking him into a daze. Garashi sighed softly. As long as it's a lie, it will be exposed one day. So, I didn't lie to him. However, the truth was sometimes more deceptive than a lie. Red said worriedly, Garashi, then you? Garashi said, don't worry about it. It's because I've wandered around in confusion that I cherish the present even more. I also hope that Senior Wu Wei can walk out of the past. Asma muttered, you're too kind. How can you treat a spy like this? Garashi chuckled. We still don't know what's going on in the grass country, so there's no need to reject a force that can be recruited. Asma exclaimed, wait, even the spies have come out. Could it be that the grass nation hasn't been corrupted yet? Yamanaka Inoichi said, first of all, we can't rule out that rock crypsis deliberately created the illusion that Kusanagi is controlled by them. Secondly, it's also possible that some of Kusanagi's forces have turned to rock crypsis. If we rush to make a judgment, it's likely that we'll push the forces that were originally leaning toward Woodleaf to the enemy. So, our main task is still to inquire about intelligence. I see. Yamanaka Inoichi added, also, Garashi, you can try to get information from the boy named Wu Wei, but be careful. Garashi said, I know what to do. 2 days later the group finally arrived at Kusanagi village. Unlike what Garashi and others thought at first, Kusanagi village was not desolate, and it even had a sense of prosperity. This change surprised several people. There are so many bandits and robbers in the grass country. Why does Kusanagi village look so harmonious? Asma asked while touching his head. Because those big people don't care about the life and death of ordinary people at all. Wu Wei sneered, the only thing they will do is to use the interests of the grass country to please other countries around them and use so-called diplomatic means to maintain their own rule. After that he shook his head again, sorry, I was a little angry. By the way, since you have arrived at Kusanagi village, let's separate here. They didn't ask him to stay but asked, Senpai, where is your home? We want to invite you to dinner before we leave. You saved me, I should be the one to invite you. Wu Wei said with a smile, as for accommodation, I actually don't have a place to live yet. After all, Goryu Castle is on a nearby island. If you want to find me, you can go to the hostel in the north of the village. I should rest there. Then we'll go to hand in the task first. Goodbye, Wu Wei senpai. When the caravan left, Wu Wei put away the smile on his face. They don't even know Goryu Castle. It seems that they didn't come for that matter. Under the leadership of Kitahara Shigeru, Garashi and the others came to an extremely luxurious mansion. Yamanaka Jonin, the one who ordered this batch of materials from Woodleaf, is the Minister of Finance of our grass country. In order to avoid the covetous eyes of those bandits, we had to use the name of a caravan. Yamanaka Inoichi wasn't surprised. This was something that had been explained before accepting the task. Walking into the mansion, a middle-aged man with a pair of bright eyes was already waiting. Friends from Woodleaf, it's been hard on you. The middle-aged man invited them into the living room with great enthusiasm. I'm the Minister of Finance of the grass country, Ueno Shin, and the initiator of this commission. As soon as he came up, he began to pour out his grievances. Our grass country is suffering, we're really suffering. After explaining how hard the people, ninjas and officials of the grass country were suffering, he changed the topic and mentioned the deep friendship between Woodleaf and the grass country. Finally, he raised the topic with tears. For the peace of the shinobi world, for the friendship between the two countries, I'm here to ask Woodleaf to help us with another batch of materials. Asma looked at him with admiration. Arms and materials are extremely important strategic resource reserves. It's good enough to sell them to you, but this time you're planning to get them for free? Yamanaka Inoichi tapped the table lightly. I will tell Naruto-sama about your request. However, I have a proposal. Ueno Shin smiled brightly. Please say. Yamanaka Inoichi smiled. Why don't you directly entrust Woodleaf's ninja to clean up the bandits? This way, not only do you not have to worry about the materials being robbed, but you can also ensure the safety of your ninja. Ueno Shin's smile froze, and the next moment he sighed. No, after all, this is our grass country's internal affairs. If we ask Woodleaf's ninja to do it, it may be misunderstood by our people. It doesn't matter if we're scolded, but how can we let our allies bear a bad reputation? Yamanaka Inoichi didn't insist. Is that so? It seems that I didn't think about it. Ueno Shin smiled brightly. Haha, Yamanaka Jonin is also thinking about us. Yamanaka Inoichi looked outside the door. It seems that it's getting late. Let's go back to Woodleaf early. At this time, Asma shouted according to the previous discussion. Yamanaka-sensei, let's go back to Woodleaf tomorrow. It's rare to come out, it's a pity to go back like this. Seeing that Yamanaka Inoichi was a little embarrassed, Ueno Shin also persuaded, this little ninja is very reasonable. It's rare to come out, let's experience our grass country style. As he said that, he had already arranged, although my place is a bit simple, it's not a problem for a few more guests. Yamanaka Jonin, you guys can stay here for the night. Chapter 83. Looking at the magnificent decoration in the room, Asma couldn't help but complain, this is really simple. My house is not so simple. Hong Shin nodded in agreement. He also said that he was hard. I also want to be as hard as him. At this time, Yamanaka Inoichi in the next room created an online chat room again. You all be careful, this Ueno Shin is likely to have a problem. Asma agreed, I think so too. Thinking that Asma and the others had seen Wuwei's concealment before, Yamanaka Inoichi couldn't help but examine. How did you see it? Speaking of this, Asma suddenly became excited. First of all, when he talked about how hard he was, he shook his head, which probably means that he didn't believe it himself. Secondly, when he explained why it didn't work, his body language and eyes were very uncoordinated, and several times they pointed in the opposite direction. By the way, he came up with a long speech and led the topic to materials. It's likely that he was worried that we would ask something difficult to answer, so he deliberately took the right to speak in his own hands. After talking for about 10 minutes, he added reluctantly, of course, these analyses don't count. They can only be used as a reference. Yamanaka Inoichi was stunned and took a long time to recover. Did Naruto-sama teach you these things? It's Garashi. Seeing that the teacher was shocked, Asma felt refreshed. Didn't he build a psychology club? Then he shared some small details of his usual observations with us. Although it can't be said to be completely accurate, many times he can guess other people's thoughts. Yamanaka Inoichi felt that 10,000 mythological beasts were rushing through his heart. How could he feel that the valuable experience he had summed up in missions wasn't as thorough as Garashi's observation? He also knew about those clubs, but he never cared about them and only thought of them as children playing house. But now he really wanted to ask, is the club still recruiting? Thinking of this, Yamanaka Inoichi coughed twice and said, your analysis is very good, but I'm worried that your observation is still incomplete. After you go back, you can tell me more about the content in detail, and I will give you professional guidance from the perspective of an intelligence ninja. Red asked suspiciously, really? Why would I lie to you? Yamanaka Inoichi said and quickly changed the topic. Ahem, there's only one day. We can't delay any longer. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You guys go out with the excuse of going shopping. Garashi, follow that way. Asma and Kurenai, you two go to the mission center of Kusanagi village. I'll talk to Shin Ueno and see if I can get anything out of him. But no matter what, you have to gather here before 6 p.m., understood? Understood. Then let's begin. At the same time at the North Street Hostel. Wuwei, tell me the information you have gathered. A short but muscular man stood in front of Wu Wei and said, "Yes, Yangdo-sama." Wu Wei stood straight. "According to my observations in the past 2 days, they didn't have any abnormal reaction, but they were amazed by the number of bandits in the Kusanagi village. As for Enigmo Castle, only that Jonin has some impression of it." "Oh, it seems that wood leaf is getting more and more dull." Yang Do sneered and then nodded slowly, "But it's also true that if Wood Leaf really noticed our actions, they wouldn't have sent them to escort the supplies." Hearing Yang Do's words, Wu Wei's eyes flashed. "That Wood Leaf Jonin hasn't made a move and I can't judge his strength. However, the strength of those 3 Wood Leaf Jonins doesn't seem to be weaker than me." "Not weaker than you?" Yang Do-ji smiled and said, "Those 3 people, even among the genin of the Rock Village, it's hard to find anyone stronger than them. As a jonin of Rock Crypsis, he actually doesn't think highly of these ninjas of small countries. And Wood Leaf, one of the 5 great ninja villages, he can ridicule them, but a mere Kusanagi is thinking too highly of themselves." Wu Wei clenched his fists slightly, but his face still looked amazed. "Are the 3 of them very powerful?" Yang Do's eyes became serious. "According to the information, the little girl should be the weakest one, but even so, her genjutsu is close to the level of a chunin. After all, her father is the strongest genjutsu master in Wood Leaf. As for that Asma, he is the son of Sandame Naruto." "What? Sandame Naruto's son?" Wu Wei couldn't believe that the guy who didn't look too smart was Naruto's son. Well, this alone is enough to show his strength. However, compared with Shimizu Garashi, the 2 of them are nothing. Wu Wei was shocked. Is he the son of first Naruto? Well, the timing doesn't seem to match. He doesn't have any special identity. In fact, he was originally just an unremarkable orphan left behind by the war. Wu Wei was in a trance. Shimizu Garashi seemed to have told him this before. Yang Do looked dignified, but his talent is too terrifying. He developed an A-level ninjutsu at the age of 6 years old. A-level ninjutsu. Wu Wei swallowed hard. He felt powerless. Is this a real genius? The entire Kusanagi village may not have an A-level ninjutsu, but someone else can develop it at the age of 6. This gap made him completely lose the confidence to compete. Yang Do seemed to see the ambition in Wu Wei's eyes. He took the opportunity to beat him. "Do you understand the gap between you? A small shinobi village should have the awareness of a small shinobi village." Wu Wei's face turned blue and red. He finally lowered his head. "I'm too shallow, but since they are all geniuses, should we eliminate the threat now?" Yang Do was a little moved, but in the end he refused. The growth of a genius also takes time. Moreover, Wood Leaf's enemies are not just us. If we leave them here, it will only lead to Wood Leaf's crazy revenge, and then the other 3 shinobi villages will take advantage of it. Wu Wei also woke up. Rock Crypsis doesn't want to eliminate the threat in advance, but the problem is that the time is too sensitive. Once the war starts in advance, it will only let the other 3 shinobi villages take advantage of it. This is not in the interest of Rock Crypsis. Yang Do was a little impatient. He said, "In short, you don't have to worry about the next thing, just do your own thing and continue to attract the bandits for us." About Enigmo Castle. Wu Wei lowered his head halfway. "Yes, I understand." Chapter 84. Yang Do knew that this little ninja from Kusanagi village had other ideas, but he didn't care. The powerful Rock Crypsis wasn't something that a weak Kusanagi village could spy on. So, seeing that Wu Wei agreed, he also nodded with satisfaction. "Don't be impatient, there will be a day when you get your revenge." With that, he turned around and left the room. Revenge? Wu Wei's eyes were full of sarcasm, but he didn't do anything else. He just sat quietly on the chair. No one knew what he was thinking. Almost 2 hours later, there was a sudden movement outside the window. Wu Wei quietly opened the window. A pigeon was standing by the window, combing its feathers. After seeing Wu Wei, the pigeon spat out a small paper tube hidden in its beak. Although it was a little troublesome, the risk of being found tied to his leg was undoubtedly greater. Wu Wei picked up the paper tube, opened it as fast as he could, and then carefully wrote on the back, and then put the small paper tube back into the pigeon's beak. The whole process took less than a minute. Seeing that no one found it, Wu Wei was relieved and his eyes were slightly crazy. "Oh, this is revenge." After doing all this, he finally sat back on the bed leisurely and began today's practice. A few minutes later, just as Wu Wei's restless heart gradually calmed down, a greeting suddenly woke him up. "Oi, senpai, we meet again." Wu Wei opened his eyes and saw Garashi sitting on the chair with a smile. When did he? Wu Wei's mind flashed many thoughts and then he jumped out of bed with a smile. "Garashi, why are you here? Where are Asma and the others?" Garashi smiled. I'm alone because I have something to ask Senpai for help. Hearing that Garashi was alone, Wu-wei relaxed a little. As long as I can do it, there is absolutely no problem. That's great. Garashi smiled as he took out a small paper tube. Actually, I want to ask Senior to help me translate these codes. The smile on Wu-wei's face suddenly froze, but he reacted in the next moment. Aha, shouldn't you go to the signal team for this kind of thing? I think it would be faster to find the person directly. The person involved? I was too careless. Garashi smiled and said, then can I trouble you to explain? Mr. Undercover. Wu-wei stopped smiling and looked around. Is this a sound ceiling enchantment? That's really cautious. Garashi shrugged helplessly. We have to be prepared in advance. But you were still careless. Wu-wei smirked. You probably didn't expect this, but everyone in this hostel is from Rock Crypsis. I know. You know? Wu-wei's confident tone faltered, and he looked at Shueisha in surprise. Then do you know that I can rush out of the room if I take a few steps forward? Although it may be rude to say this, but... Garashi's tone was gentle as he looked at him with a smile. In front of me, you won't have any room to resist. Wu-wei's heart suddenly surged with anger. Although he now knows that his talent may be far inferior to Garashi, he is also a genius of Kusanagi, and he has been practicing for a few years more than Garashi. If it weren't for hiding his strength, he would have been promoted to Chunin. No matter how bad it is, it's impossible that he can't even rush out of the room. Then let's try, boom. Before his voice fell, he knelt on the floor powerlessly. Then, like a wooden doll, he was manipulated to sit in front of Garashi. How is it possible? I didn't even take a step out. This kind of printing speed, this kind of illusion I can't resist. Although his body was controlled and he couldn't speak, Wu-wei's eyes were full of shock. He thought that he had overestimated his opponent enough, and from the beginning he only wanted to escape a few steps away. But now it seems that not only he underestimated his opponent, but even Yang Do underestimated him. This is not a genius who hasn't grown up, but a monster in sheep's clothing. Now that I've exposed my strength, will I be killed? Wu-wei thought in his heart, but he wasn't afraid. Instead, he felt a kind of perverted pleasure. Yang Do, if you know what you are letting go of, you will regret the decision you made today. With a snap of his fingers, Wu-wei regained control of his body. Garashi shook the small paper tube and asked, Senpai, can you tell me what this code is now? Wu-wei rubbed the place where he just fell and said with a cold face, if I don't even have the awareness of death, I won't be a ninja. Just kill me, I won't say anything. Garashi wasn't angry, he just tapped his fingers on the table. Senpai, do you know the Woodleaf Yamanaka clan? Hearing Garashi mention the Yamanaka clan, Wu-wei's face changed slightly. Seems that you know. Seeing the other party's reaction, Garashi nodded slightly. Unfortunately, Yamanaka-senpai is an excellent jonin of this clan. And I can use genjutsu to control you to find Yamanaka-senpai. This way, in the eyes of the Rock Crypsis, you are betraying them again. How do you think those furious Rock Crypsis ninjas will deal with Kusanagi and your people? Wu-wei clenched his hands angrily. Too despicable. Garashi said lightly, for a ninja, despicable is not a powerful condemnation. Wu-wei helplessly lowered his head. Indeed, ninja wasn't a bright profession, and his own means were completely different from the light. Just as he was about to say the answer, he heard Garashi laugh out loud. What are you laughing at? Wu-wei asked with a dark face. Are you scared? Garashi laughed for a while, then immediately put on a serious face. I said this just to let you know that everything you do can be reflected on others. Wu-wei's face was complicated. Don't you want to know the answer? Garashi knew that the other party's psychological defense had a flaw. Of course I want to know, but I won't use this method to deepen the hatred. Besides, don't you still have the seal? Yu Shangrong smiled. Don't you have the seal? Seal? Wu-wei was stunned, and the part of the memory that was ignored in his mind suddenly returned, and then he looked at Garashi with gritted teeth. You just unlocked a part of the genjutsu. Knowing so many secrets, Rock Crypsis will certainly put a seal on him. In other words, even if he was controlled to appear in front of Yamanaka Inoichi, Rock Crypsis will not suspect him of betrayal, they will only think that he is being held hostage. Thinking of this, Wu-wei's face was very ugly. You did this just to tease me? Garashi slowly shook his head. No, I wanted to see your heart clearly. Heart. Wu-wei was a little confused, but he was too lazy to think more. With the seal, I can't tell you the answer, you can do it now. Chapter 85. Garashi just shook his head. Sometimes the seal can't solve everything. Wu was puzzled. What do you mean? Garashi continued his analysis. The hostel is obviously filled with people from Rock Crypsis, but you used a secret signal to communicate with people outside. It seems that your identity as a spy must be very complicated, right? Wu now understood Garashi's plan. He wanted to deduce the meaning of the secret signal himself. While he was shocked, he could not help but refute. This doesn't mean anything. Maybe the hostel's owner is not here and we have to communicate through birds? Garashi shook his head slightly. When I sneaked in, I eavesdropped. The owner of this hostel is called Black Light. Maybe it's a fake name, but he left more than an hour ago and you checked in 2 hours ago. Wu's lips opened slightly, but he did not speak. Due to the restriction of the seal, he could not say or write down the secret of the spellcaster. However, this level of reaction was enough. Which village did the second person contact you from? Garashi tilted his head. I'm guessing it's still Rock Crypsis? Wu's pupils contracted violently, his eyes filled with shock. Seeing Wu's reaction, Garashi could not help but laugh. It seems that I guessed right. Wu waved his arms vigorously. This doesn't make sense at all. How can you guess like this? Because when I used the illusion to control you just now, I tried to see if I could bypass the seal. I didn't have much hope at first, but the final result surprised me. Garashi rubbed his chin. Without considering the protection of your brain, I can completely break the seal. Perhaps it was because of Garashi's previous display of strength. Wu did not doubt this. He only asked with a complicated expression. Then why didn't you do that? The life or death of a spy has no impact on you. Garashi's eyes were calm. Because I saw the desire in your eyes, the desire for the future and change. Wu's mind was shaken, and his thoughts became chaotic. Garashi continued, it's precisely because this seal is too simple that it makes me suspicious. Since you're not good at sealing, why don't you let the sealing class do it? Wu had a strange look on his face. Although the person who put the seal on him was not good at sealing, that person was still a jonin. How could it become so simple in Garashi's words? Garashi didn't care too much about Wu's strange look. After all, the person who taught him the sealing technique didn't even care about Naruto's seal. After a short pause, Garashi continued, the best reason is that he didn't dare to contact the village's sealing class. That's why I'm guessing that he's a member of Rock Crypsis. He might even be the leader of this operation. The shock in Wu's eyes can no longer be described with words. Just based on the information collected in a few minutes, the other party could speculate to this extent. Compared with Garashi, he suspected that he wasn't suitable to be a ninja at all. Garashi wasn't satisfied with this and continued to analyze. Being able to lead so many ninjas to carry out the mission shows that the person should be a very trusted senior member of Rock Crypsis. Even such a person has other ideas, ordinary temptation won't work. And according to my inquiries these days, perhaps only the legend of Ghost Lantern City has this kind of temptation. Wu couldn't help but ask, wait, I've been paying attention to you these days. How come I didn't know that you asked about Ghost Lantern City? Shushi smiled and waved his hand. Your reaction that day was too abnormal. That's why I decided to ask around for information. As for you, is it that difficult for me to avoid you when I know you're a spy? Wu stared. You already knew that I was a spy? Shushi corrected him. To be precise, all of us knew about it on the first day. I'm really not suitable to be a ninja? Wu lowered his head and closed his eyes. The box of bliss that can fulfill people's wishes, only this kind of thing can make a Rock Crypsis jounin have ideas that shouldn't be. And the reason why you're willing to work for him should be to split Rock Crypsis. I really can't hide anything from you. Wu slowly raised his head, his eyes slightly crazy. Yes, whether it's Rock Crypsis or Woodleaf, it's better to destroy them all. Since that's the mentality, it's not difficult to guess the code. Garashi nodded slightly. Although Rock Crypsis is actively preparing for war, they don't want to be the first to be involved in the war. If I were you, I naturally wouldn't want them to get what they want. I would probably hope that Woodleaf and Rock Crypsis would be involved in the war ahead of time, and it would be best if the other three villages took advantage of the opportunity to destroy them. And what you can do is to arouse the desire of the tempted Rock Crypsis jounin and make him attack us. So, this code probably means that the more talented the person, the better the effect of the sacrifice to the box of bliss. After that, Garashi smiled and looked at Wu. Senpai, did I guess correctly? Wu looked at him in shock, a trace of inexplicable fear in his heart. Although he was shocked by Garashi's strength before, deep down he was still somewhat dismissive. Isn't it just talent? If he had that kind of talent he could do it too. But now he didn't have such thoughts at all. Talent, strength, temperament, intelligence, no matter which aspect, he is strong enough to make people afraid. In this world, is there really such a perfect person like him? Wu Wei couldn't help but think, if he was a Kusanagi, maybe all of this could really be changed. Shaking his head, Wu Wei closed his eyes. Since you have already guessed it, then I am useless, just kill me. Garashi shook his finger. Although Senpai can't say anything about the Rock Crypsis Jounin, but Rock Crypsis's other arrangements and infiltrated forces in the grass country should be able to say. Yes, but why should I tell you? Wu Wei's eyes were indifferent. Don't forget, I want Woodleaf and Rock Crypsis to be destroyed. Garashi didn't get angry, he just looked straight into his eyes. But have you ever thought that once the war breaks out, the grass country will most likely become the battlefield again? You are dragging them into hell again. No, Kusanagi has no future. Wu Wei shouted, only by destroying Woodleaf and Rock Crypsis together can they be resurrected in the ruins. No, you are wrong. Garashi shook his head slowly, there is still hope for Kusanagi. Don't tell me you want to talk about the box of bliss? Wu Wei sneered, that thing is simply a bottomless pit, it can't be filled. I never believe in illusory things like wishes, the hope I am talking about is. Garashi pointed to himself, me. Wu Wei stared at him. You? Garashi asked with a smile, what do you think of me? Wu Wei was silent for a moment. Even if I stand in the enemy's position, I have to admit that I have never seen anyone as powerful as you. Those arrogant Rock Crypsis, compared to you, they are not even sand. Garashi accepted the praise calmly. Then do you think it is possible for me to become Naruto? Wu Wei's eyes bloomed with brilliance but immediately dimmed. Even Naruto can't influence the decision of Rock Crypsis. Then surpass Naruto. Garashi's words were full of strong confidence. Let those who don't understand what peace is hear our voice. Wu Wei's blood was faintly boiling. If it was this man, he could do it. A dreamer can only find his way under the moonlight. His punishment is to be the first to see the dawn. Garashi smiled and invited, so, do you want to try to see the dawn with me? Chapter 86. Wu Wei couldn't help but agree. I understand, although I'm just an ordinary genin, I'll do my best. Don't underestimate yourself, you're not ordinary and you can't be ordinary. Garashi smiled slightly. If you're too ordinary, how can you become the Kage of Kusagakure? Wu Wei's eyes were in a trance. Kage? Garashi nodded. Only when you become the Kage of Kusagakure can you reduce the resistance of what we want to do. Wu Wei's eyes burned with the flame of ambition. I will become the Kage, only then can I become your arm. That's a bit off topic. Garashi laughed. Let's talk about the arrangement of Rock Crypsis. Wu Wei tried to calm his excited heart and also laughed. If the Rock Village knew that the seal that was originally used to keep their secret was secretly changed by that person to keep his secret, they would be so angry that they would vomit blood. It's a pity that I can't see their angry faces. Wu Wei sighed and said, in addition to that person, Rock Crypsis sent 1 Jonin, 5 Chunin and 27 Genin. As for the Kusagakure, I know that nearly half of the high-level officials have been infiltrated. They are the daimyo of the Kusagakure, the Minister of Finance. After listening to Wu Wei's long list of names, Garashi's eyes narrowed. The situation is more serious than I thought. With that, Garashi cleared his residual aura, opened the window, and put the small paper tube back into the beak of the pigeon waiting outside. He used genjutsu to delete part of the pigeon's memory before sending it away. Wu Wei was a little confused. That note is... Garashi calmly closed the window. Don't worry, I have my own plans. Hearing Garashi's words, Wu Wei no longer asked. He now trusts Garashi almost unconditionally. Since Garashi said so, there will be no problem. In addition, I have something to ask you for help. The finance minister's residence. Seeing Garashi return, the 3 people who had been waiting here for a long time finally breathed a sigh of relief. Asma, who was thirsty, immediately shouted, let me tell you what Kurenai and I found first. The mission center has indeed changed. Most of the commission missions are more likely to be given to Rock Crypsis. I suspect that the upper echelons of Kusagakure may have been infiltrated. Yamanaka Inoichi's voice was heavy. In my communication with Shin Ueno, I also discovered a terrible fact. That is, the daimyo of Grass Country may have betrayed Woodleaf. Garashi agreed. You're right. Other than the daimyo, there's also the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Foreign Affairs. After listening to Garashi's long list of names, they all fell silent. They didn't suspect anything. With Garashi's cautious and steady nature, he must have confirmed the answer. However, they were still puzzled. That's not right. We're just guessing. How come you already have an answer? Everyone is trying to get information. Why are you so outstanding? Kurenai whispered, "That's amazing. Garashi, you've got a lot more information than us." Garashi smiled and accepted the compliment. "In addition to this, I also know the layout and strength of rock crypsis in Kusagakure." Asma screamed in horror. "Garashi, what did you do to that Wuwei? Why did he even tell you this?" Shushi said indifferently, "Because I instigated his rebellion." They were silent again. To be sent as an undercover by rock crypsis, it means that the other party should be very trusted. Even in the eyes of rock crypsis, it's impossible for him to betray them. How did Shushi manage to instigate a rebellion in just a few hours? As an intelligence ninja, Yamanaka Inoichi almost doubted his life. Was it so easy to get information? Then what was I doing in the past? Bastard. Asma asked blankly, "Then is our mission completed?" Yamanaka Inoichi smiled bitterly. It should be. He originally wanted to let his disciples see how he completed the mission as a jonin so that they could also experience the joy of flying. But it's just the beginning. How did Garashi lead them all the way to the end? This kind of lying down winning position is too shameful. Then have a good rest tonight and go back tomorrow? Yamanaka-sensei, please wait. Garashi interrupted. Although the information of rock crypsis has been collected, I also found other information in the process. Kurenai asked in surprise. There is other information? Garashi's voice was heavy. Rock crypsis placed 2 jonins in Kusagakure, and the jonin in charge of this operation seems to have some strange thoughts. Yamanaka Inoichi's eyes fluctuated slightly. Garashi, explain it in detail. Garashi said seriously. Simply put, there is a box of bliss that is said to be able to fulfill people's wishes. The rock crypsis jonin believed in this statement and tried to open the box of bliss by sacrificing the power of those prisoners. Of course, his statement to the rock crypsis is to control the prisoners in Kusagakure as a hidden force in the war. Yamanaka Inoichi couldn't help but interrupt. Wait, Garashi, how do you know? I also learned this from Wuwei. But for such an important thing, shouldn't he have a seal on him? The information he inadvertently revealed is enough for me to deduce the general process, and judging from his reaction, I should not be wrong. Garashi's tone was calm as if he was talking about a trivial matter. Yamanaka Inoichi was once again at a loss. Even the seal can be bypassed? Perhaps it was too much of a shock. Asma was already used to it. He reacted faster than Yamanaka Inoichi and asked, "Then can we spread the news and use it to cause internal strife in rock crypsis?" You think too highly of him. With the prestige of Tsuchikage in rock crypsis, a jonin can't change anything but. Garashi pondered for a moment. This may be an opportunity to change the situation of Kusagakure. Asma's eyes suddenly lit up. Garashi, you want to take this opportunity to eliminate rock crypsis in Kusagakure? Before his voice fell, Yamanaka Inoichi hurriedly interrupted. No, it's too dangerous. No matter what, the enemy is also 2 jonins and many chunin and genin, and even the prisoners of Hozuki Castle. We can't fight against them at all. Yamanaka-sensei, don't worry, I'm not the kind of hot-blooded brute. Garashi smiled and comforted. Since I said so, I naturally have some preparations. Yes, Garashi must have thought of a way. Asma was encouraging and suddenly realized something was wrong. Wait, Brute isn't talking about me, is he? Thinking of Garashi's consistent performance, Yamanaka Inoichi also calmed down a little. What are you going to do? Garashi methodically analyzed. First of all, Wuwei, as a descendant of the Hozuki Castle clan, he knows the box of bliss best. Therefore, the rock crypsis jonin valued him so much and deliberately set a seal on him. And because of this seal, he most likely won't doubt Wu Wei's words. Hearing this, everyone already understood Garashi's plan. Red Face asked excitedly, is it to let Wu Wei drive a wedge between them? It's actually very difficult to succeed under normal circumstances, but... Garashi clasped his hands and held his chin. For those who have a guilty conscience, as long as there is a little doubt, it's enough to make them desperate. This is external and the next is internal. Garashi looked at Yamanaka Inoichi with a dignified expression. Yamanaka-sensei, your clan's psychic secret jutsu should be able to do this. Hearing Garashi's detailed plan, Yamanaka Inoichi's eyes lit up, and finally, even he was moved. If the plan goes smoothly, maybe it's really possible to succeed. In this way we can not only remove the rock crypsis's power in Kusanagi, but also let Kusanagi be hated by rock crypsis and finally return to our side of Woodleaf. Asma nodded again and again. Even if the plan fails, we can let Garashi use the Flying Thunder God Jutsu to take us away. Yamanaka Inoichi exhaled heavily. Well, I'll go crazy with you once. Chapter 87. At the same time in Hashizuki Castle. In the underground darkroom. A burly middle-aged ninja stood in front of a huge box, gently stroking it, his eyes burning with desire. The legendary treasure of the six-paths sage, wake up quickly and fulfill my wish. Naturally, the box didn't respond, but he didn't care. As long as he thought of the note he received this afternoon, he couldn't help but feel excited. Is the quality of the previous offerings too bad? It doesn't matter, I have found a better replacement, it won't take long. At this time, there was movement above the darkroom. Blackrock-sama, Yangdo-sama is here. I'll go up. Looking at the box of bliss with reluctance, Blackrock put on a smile and went out. Outside. Blackrock-sama, things are basically clear. After seeing Blackrock, Yangdo didn't talk much and went straight to the point. Woodleaf didn't notice our actions. When they leave, we can continue. Well? Blackrock pondered a little. Actually, I have a new idea. New idea? That's right, let those Konoha ninjas stay here forever. Blackrock-sama, isn't this too radical? Yangdo was shocked and asked. Haha, you are too steady. If you don't take risks, how can you win the war? Blackrock patted him on the shoulder and laughed. Yangdo frowned. But this way, our intentions will be completely exposed. Blackrock waved his hand indifferently. Your idea is still too rigid. If we invite those little ninjas to Rock Crypsis, maybe we can make Woodleaf united with us? Yangdo was still hesitant. But what if Woodleaf is not threatened? Or should we ask Tsuchikage-sama? Blackrock was very unhappy. Are you the leader or am I the leader? By the time you ask, Woodleaf will have already run away. Yangdo could only smile bitterly. Well, I'll let Wuwei invite them, but you still have to be careful of that Yamanaka Inoichi. Blackrock instantly smiled. Don't worry, it's not the first time I've dealt with the Yamanaka clan. As long as I'm careful, their secret spirit jutsu won't work. Yangdo nodded. Woodleaf's Inoshika butterfly combination was indeed powerful, but if it was just one of them, they just had to be a little more careful. Kuroda was about to leave when he hesitated and reminded, Kuroshi-san, the prisoners of Hozuki Castle should be handled with caution. If the other major ninja villages know that we are accommodating these combat forces, it will be troublesome. Blackstone smiled. Don't worry, no one will know. After Yangdo left, the smile on Blackstone's face slowly disappeared. Idiot, do you really think I'm interested in the strength of those prisoners? All I want is their chakra. As for the Tsuchikage? Anoki is old and there should be a more suitable master for him. No, that's not right. As long as I can master the secret of the box of bliss, who cares about the Tsuchikage? I should be the master of this world. Hey. Just as he was feeling proud, a pigeon fell at his feet. The second time today? I should have told him not to contact me frequently, right? Blackrock's eyes were gloomy as he picked up the small paper tube. I hope it's important news, otherwise, huh? Just a glance, Blackrock's eyes widened. Damn. He dares. No wonder he told me this today. Was it to test me? Blackrock's eyes were uncertain, as if he had made a great decision. Don't blame me, I can't go back. The next day, early morning. Garashi, who had just finished his morning practice, stood in front of the mirror and said to himself, this plan, in addition to making Yamanaka-sensei pay more attention to my opinion, so as to pave the way for future actions, this experience is also essential. But before that, I must seal the most critical part of the memory. As for the key to unseal it, let's set it as Woodleaf's perception enchantment. Thinking of this, Garashi no longer hesitated, his hands formed a seal and finally pressed on his eyebrows. Outside the finance minister's mansion. Yangdo-sama, call me Blacklight. Remember, my current identity is the deputy warden of Jioden. Yes, Blacklight-sama. Wuwei changed his address and asked, but didn't you say yesterday that you don't need to care about them? Yangdo's face turned red and he shouted, I didn't say that, you must have remembered it wrong. Without waiting for Wuwei to answer, he guiltily turned his head. Don't waste time, let's go in. Yes. The two walked in, pretended to talk with Ueno Shin, and then were led to the room of Garashi and others. Yamanaka-sensei. Wuwei greeted from a distance. Wuwei, you are? Yamanaka Inoichi asked doubtfully. This is our deputy warden of Jioden, Blacklight-sama. Wuwei first introduced and then invited, we came here today to ask Yamanaka-sensei to go to Jioden. Jioden? What are we going to do there? Asma asked in a timely manner. Let me explain, Yizichin said. Yangdo's face looked bitter. Oh, the situation in Jiadan is too difficult, whether it's manpower or equipment, it's almost impossible to support. But our words carry little weight and no one will care about what we say, so we want to ask a few wood-leaf ninjas to be witnesses and tell Naruto-sama what they see. Yamanaka Inoichi frowned and seemed hesitant. Kurenai bit her lip and said pitifully, Yamanaka-sensei, why don't you help Wuei-sensei? Asuma patted his chest and said, Yamanaka-sensei, don't worry. If the old man blames you for delay in returning to the village, you can put the blame on me. Yamanaka Inoichi smiled bitterly, well, but let's say in advance at most we will stay for another day. Naruto's son can influence the decision of a jonin, Woodleaf's power is really corrupt. Yang Do despised in his heart, but his face was grateful. Thank you so much, I will do my best to entertain you. It's just that this reception may not be the same as what you think, hee. Yang Do quickly lowered his head, worried that the other party would see his smile. On the side, looking at the secretly proud Yang Do, Wu Wei felt a burst of sympathy. Sure enough, it's the same as last time, only you don't know that you are the one being played. Wait, it seems wrong. Last time it was the 4 of them who played me, but this time, it's the 5 of us who played him. Moreover, Black Rock may be thinking about how to kill him now. Thinking of this, Wu Wei only felt that the word miserable was written all over Yang Do's body, and he couldn't bear to look directly at it. Chapter 88. In the gloomy and treacherous fog, a high city loomed. Haha, it's really rude to let several distinguished guests come to such a place. Yang Do stood on the deck and looked at Garashi and others apologetically. Hey, we just came here once and it's so uncomfortable. It's hard to imagine how you usually come here. Yamanaka Inoichi also followed the act. It's not easy for everyone. Yang Do shook his head with emotion and then invited, then let's go in now. Entering the gate of the Ghost Lantern City, Black Rock was already waiting. Let me introduce you, this is our Ghost Lantern City's Lord, Black Rock-sama. Yang Do said while winking at Black Rock. But Black Rock just ignored it and enthusiastically pulled Yamanaka Inoichi. I'm so happy that you can come. Everyone go and sit down first, I'll arrange the banquet. Yamanaka Inoichi declined. No, Black Rock-sama, you're too polite. Black Rock said with a straight face. You're not giving me face. Although our Ghost Lantern City is remote, we're not people who don't know etiquette. Yamanaka Inoichi smiled bitterly. In that case, thank you for your hospitality. Seeing this, Black Rock smiled with satisfaction. That's right. Wu Wei, take the guests to sit down first, Blacklight and I will prepare the ingredients. Yes. When they left, Yang Do asked puzzledly, Black Rock-sama, why didn't you do it directly? Black Rock shook his head and smiled. When you should be steady, you're not steady. Yamanaka Inoichi is a jonin. If you push him too hard, it will cause us a lot of losses. After all, it's not easy to catch them alive. Yang Do instantly woke up. Yes, we're here to catch people. It's harder to catch them alive than to kill them. Black Rock said with a smile. So, we have to wait patiently for an opportunity. Opportunity? Yang Do's eyes lit up. Black Rock-sama, are you going to poison the banquet? But halfway through he frowned again. That Yamanaka Inoichi is a jonin. He should be familiar with all kinds of poisons. It's hard to just poison him, right? Black Rock calmly asked, have you forgotten how Ghost Light City got its name? Yang Do suddenly realized, Gui Dang. It's the ghost lanterns that grow all around the island. Black Rock nodded slightly. This ghost lantern is a specialty of the island. It's impossible for him to recognize it. Moreover, ordinary ghost lanterns won't cause any problems after eating them, but the white variant will cause paralysis all over. Yang Do clapped his hands and smiled. We can eat the regular ghost lantern first to make them less vigilant. Then we can grind the white mutants and hide them in the regular ghost lantern. When the drugs take effect, they will be at our mercy. Black Rock laughed as well. Furthermore, ghost lantern isn't poison. It'll be even harder for them to discover it. At this point, the two looked at each other and smiled. An hour later, in the spacious hall. All kinds of sweet and delicious food filled the table. At a glance, it was enough to make people hungry. Distinguished guests, this is a banquet held to thank you, so please don't be shy. Black Rock sat in the main seat and said enthusiastically. Really? Then I'm going to start eating. Asuma shouted and began to eat heartily. What a forthright guest. Let's eat. Yang Do said with a smile and started to eat. Seeing this, the people at the table no longer hesitated and joined the ranks of the battle. Is it finally going to start? Black Rock was almost trembling with excitement, but he still restrained himself. No, it's not the time to be happy yet. We can't let them find out the problem. If there is, we can use conversation to divert their attention. Thinking of this, Black Rock suddenly said with a smile. Have you heard? The Kazakage of San Crypsis village may be dead. Puff. Everyone at the table spat out a mouthful of saliva. Yang Do was even more confused. Why did Black Rock Senpai suddenly let himself go? Yamanaka and Noichi couldn't help but ask, Castellan, is this news accurate? Black Rock smiled. It's not clear whether he's dead or not, but the disappearance has basically been confirmed. Let's continue eating. Everyone ate the food with a heavy heart, inexplicably feeling that a storm was coming. Black Rock said with a smile, there are not many people in the shinobi world who have the ability to kill or kidnap the Kazakage. San Crypsis will most likely suspect the Kages of various villages, and the closest villages to San Crypsis village are Woodleaf and Rock Crypsis. Ahem. Yang Do coughed twice and reminded, Castellan, we are weak. Let's not talk about this kind of thing, okay? Black Rock laughed and said, it's my fault. Everyone continued to eat. At this moment, Asma's eyes suddenly widened, and his hands and feet twitched as he fell down. What happened to me? Somayu. Before he could finish his sentence, Rinse and Red fell to the ground one after another. No, it's poisonous. Yamanaka Inoichi was a jonin, and he barely held on for a moment, looking at Black Rock and others angrily. Who the hell are you? Why did you do this? Seeing his angry look, the other ninjas on the table laughed. Idiot, of course we're Rock Crypsis people. Hey, I didn't expect that even Naruto's son fell into our hands. Woodleaf's ninjas are really useless, we just used a trick. But before they could finish their words, their legs twitched and they fell to the ground. What's going on? I know, the person who drugged them must have mixed them up and made all the berries mutant. Damn, is there anyone who didn't get poisoned? Of course I'm fine. Black Rock chuckled and stood up. A Rock Crypsis Chunin shouted excitedly, Great, Black Rock-sama, hurry up and solve it for us. Boom. The Chunin who spoke was kicked out by his foot. Seeing this scene, the Rock Crypsis couldn't believe it. Black Rock-sama, what are you doing? Black Rock sighed deeply. Are you all idiots? At this time you don't think I'm on your side, do you? Their last fantasy was ruthlessly broken, and the Rock Crypsis were all angry. You bastard, how dare you betray Rock Crypsis? Damn it, what did the village do to you? Yang Do pointed at him with a trembling finger. Are you from San Crypsis, Yunin, or Kirin? I'm not from any side, I only belong to myself. Black Rock laughed wildly. Wue, get up, go seal their chakra as the last sacrifice for the box of bliss. Chapter 89. Hearing Black Rock summon, Wu Wei stood up from the collapsed crowd. Yes. Seeing this, Yang Do's eyes widened again. You've been colluding for a long time? Black Rock smiled happily. Yang Do, you can only blame yourself for being too stupid. Do you think you're monitoring him? In fact, I asked him to monitor you. Yang Do's face was full of shame and suddenly realized a problem. Wait, did you just say the box of bliss? Black Rock squinted. It seems that you don't know anything. Yang Do said angrily, that kind of thing is a false lie. You betrayed Rock Crypsis for a lie? Black Rock's face sank. Enough. Don't say any more. If you didn't push me too hard, I wouldn't have to take risks like this. In short, I'll sacrifice you first, and if it's not enough, I'll sacrifice the entire Ghost Lantern City, and I'll definitely open it. We forced you? Yang Do was wondering, and then he saw Wu Wei approaching him step by step. As Wu Wei's former boss, he naturally knew the power of the other side's confinement jutsu, and he didn't dare to continue to delay. Don't underestimate Rock Crypsis. Earth release, Earth flow river. Wu Wei's pupils shrank, and he quickly dodged before the earth under his feet turned into a river. You can still use jutsu, but I underestimated your will. Looking at Yang Do's slightly trembling body, Black Rock understood that the other side actually didn't get rid of the paralysis effect of the mutated Ghost Lantern, he was just forcibly controlling his body. You want me to surrender with a mere paralysis? Yang Do made a defensive posture and shouted, Yamanaka Inoichi, don't pretend to be asleep, I know you can stand up. However, Yamanaka Inoichi was lying on the ground without any movement. That guy. Black Rock's eyes narrowed slightly, and he now suspected that the other side might be pretending to be asleep. However, this is also good. If the two Jonins joined forces, he would be in trouble. Now, a half-disabled Jonin can be dealt with easily. You bastard, can't you see the big picture? Yang Do was still there and Black Rock took the opportunity to attack. Earth release, Earth Dragon Bullet. A huge Earth Dragon head appeared beside Black Rock, continuously spitting Earth bullets at Black Rock. Earth escape, Return of the Earth. Yang Do hurriedly slapped the ground in front of him, flipping over a piece of floorboard to block his front. Bang, bang, the mud pellets hit the stone floor and flew in all directions, causing the dust on the ceiling to rustle and fall. Fortunately, the hall was spacious enough. Otherwise, the shock waves from their first exchange would have buried the others alive. That bastard. Yang Do looked at a certain someone who was sleeping soundly and gritted his teeth. Earth escape, Earth clone. The four Yang Do ran in the direction of Yamanaka Inoichi, apparently forcing him to join the battle. Don't even think about messing around. Black Rock quickly formed a seal and pressed it onto the ground. Earth release, Earth spear. Sharp earth spikes suddenly protruded from the ground and pierced through Yang Do's earth clone. Seeing that Yamanaka Inoichi still didn't respond, Yang Do secretly hated, "Forget it, this guy is hopeless." It's a good thing that Woodleaf is a bunch of impulsive people. Black Rock was secretly happy, but he didn't want to provoke them. Earth release, Rock Pillar Prison. A rock pillar rose into the sky, imprisoning Yang Do inside. Yang Do's face changed slightly, and he subconsciously began to form a seal. Earth release, Hardening Technique. Sure enough, the rock pillar split into countless thin spikes in the next moment, nailing his body like a board of nails. Kacha, in a teeth-numbing sound, the spikes broke. But Yang Do's face didn't look good. Not only is the seal slow, even the flow of chakra in my body is somewhat sluggish. This level of hardening technique can't block much damage at all. Seeing Black Rock waving his heavy rock fist, breaking the rock pillar and rushing towards him, Yang Do hurriedly used earth diving technique to escape from the ground. He knew very well that he couldn't be Black Rock's opponent in this state. He could only delay as much time as possible, hoping that the effects of the other rock crypsis would pass as soon as possible. Annoying Loach. Black Rock's pursuit was fruitless and he was feeling anxious. Suddenly, he realized that the other party seemed to be deliberately leading him away from a certain direction. So this is your plan? Although it's just a boring delusion, but I just like to break delusion. Black Rock stopped and walked towards the corner with a grin. In the corner, a group of rock crypsis ninjas were desperate. Don't you want to stand up and save your pitiful subordinates? Damn it, I'll kill you. A rock crypsis ninja struggled to stand up and wanted to join the battle. But even the shuriken he shot was crooked, so it was impossible for him to succeed. Black Rock didn't hesitate and directly pierced the ninja's heart with his earth spear. Then he began to form seals towards the second person. This time Yang Do, who was hiding in the dark, couldn't bear it anymore. Earth release, Heart Beheading Technique. The ground under Black Rock's feet turned over and swallowed him whole, leaving only his head exposed. But in the next moment, the trapped Black Rock disappeared from everyone's eyes. Not good, it's the Earth clone. Yang Do knew that it was bad, but he didn't have time to think and quickly used hardening technique to protect his body. Whoosh! A ball of pure white light suddenly burst out in the hall, blinding everyone's eyes. When the light dissipated, everyone saw the situation in front of them. Black Rock's arm was inserted in Yang Do's chest and came out from his back. The Thunder Escape technique defeats the Earth Escape technique. You've lost. Black Stone whispered in his ear and happily pulled his arm out. No, Yang Do-sama. It's over. It's all over. A group of rock crypsis ninjas looked at Woodleaf with despair and hatred. In their view, if this group of Woodleaf ninjas could temporarily put aside their previous grievances, it was possible to defeat Black Rock. Now everyone was dead for sure. At this time, Yamanaka Inoichi, who had been pretending to be dead, suddenly turned over and rushed up. Seeing this, those rock crypsis ninjas were mocking him. What's the use of attacking now? Do you think Black Rock will be careless in his ecstasy? Ah, idiot, I've been waiting for you here. Black Rock laughed, the so-called spiritual secret jutsu as long as you are careful. But at this moment, a blue ball appeared in Yamanaka Inoichi's hand. Black Rock, who had been guarding against the opponent's spiritual secret jutsu, was at a loss. When did the Yamanaka clan become so good? Although somewhat confused, Black Rock could still perceive the great power contained in the ball and subconsciously wanted to avoid it. Ninjutsu, Heart Confusion Jutsu. Black Rock's body stiffened and lost control of his body. How is this possible? I've been careful. Black Rock was terrified, but from the corner of his eyes, he caught a glimpse of a small figure making a jutsu gesture. He's also a Yamanaka? Now I understand. Black Rock's eyes were shocked, and then he was sent flying by Yamanaka Inoichi's ball. Chapter 90. This sudden turn of events made everyone at a loss. How could the Yamanaka clan, famous for their spiritual techniques, use such a powerful ninjutsu? That Woodleaf kid, when did he learn the Yamanaka clan's spiritual techniques? While their thoughts were in chaos, Wu-wei rushed up nervously. Black Rock-sama, there is a secret passage in Ghost Lantern City, I will take you out. Black Rock resisted his injury and put his hand on Wu-wei's shoulder. Quick, take me out of Ketan, Heavenly Prison. Black Rock suddenly raised his head and looked at Wu-wei in disbelief. You, sorry, I'm actually a spy. Black Rock's whole body twitched and trembled. At this time Asma, who was lying on the ground, also jumped up. Hey, isn't this too much of a challenge? I haven't done anything yet. Yamanaka Inoichi smiled and patted his shoulder. No, if it wasn't for your excellent performance, we might have been seen through. Asma nodded in agreement and immediately looked at Garashi with contempt. Yamanaka-sensei's acting is too bad, he didn't dare to say a word, I had to attract the fire for him. Garashi twitched his mouth. My acting is too bad, I'm sorry. Black Rock's face was full of shame, his finger trembled as he pointed at several people. You're okay? Kurenai nodded and smiled playfully. By the way, your berries are delicious. Black Rock was like being struck by lightning, he suddenly raised his head. Wait, if he's a spy, that means the information he sent yesterday was fake? Wu-wei said indifferently, congratulations, you're finally smart for once. That means you didn't discover my plan at all? Black Rock trembled as he looked at the rock Crypsis. Idiot. If we knew, would we eat Ghost Lantern? A group of rock Crypsis shouted. Black Rock covered his chest, his eyes widened and finally fell straight to the ground. Did we anger this guy to death? Asma asked, dumbfounded. Yamanaka Inoichi pondered for a moment, took out a kunai and shot it at Kuroshiki's heart. Blackstone sat up in shock and then he really died. Red opened her mouth in surprise. Was he faking his death? Garashi warned with a mature face. Never underestimate any ninja, even if he's just an idiot. Asma nodded thoughtfully. I understand. After saying that, he directly used the Grand Fireball technique to scatter the ashes of the black stone. I switched back to my original body and dealt with the rest of the rock Crypsis ninjas. Yamanaka Inoichi looked at Wu-wei. Do you want to go back to Woodleaf with us? If I go to Woodleaf, it will be difficult to become the leader of Kusagakure with a neutral identity in the future. At least, before I become the leader, I must not expose my inclination. Thinking of this, Wu-wei firmly refused. No need. Red looked at him in surprise. But if you stay here, won't you be suspected by rock Crypsis? Wu-wei looked indifferent. Don't worry, the seal in my body is the best evidence. Asma frowned. But how are you going to explain to rock Crypsis why you're the only one who survived? How about? Asuma asked eagerly, let's beat you up and make you seriously injured? Wu-wei's cold face was about to collapse. No, it's not difficult to explain. As long as I tell rock Crypsis that my fire prison imprisons the chakra of the prisoners of Hozuki City, if I die, the prisoners here will take the opportunity to riot. You were threatened by me with this reason to let me go. As long as I explain it like this and with the seal in my body, rock Crypsis won't doubt it after all. Wu-wei's eyes swept across several people. Woodleaf is famous for being soft-hearted in this regard. Asma blinked and put himself in their shoes. It seems that they really will do this. Shushi pondered for a moment. After all, 2 Jonin died this time, and it's impossible for the rock village to not do anything about it. Well, I'll give you another seal to avoid genjutsu torture. If anyone from the rock village asks, you can just blame it all on that black rock. P.S. It's not that you're immune to genjutsu, but you can't use genjutsu to torture information. Yamanaka Inoichi also added. After returning this time, I will immediately ask Naruto-sama to transfer some ninjas to the Kusanagi country. With our people as witnesses, rock Crypsis can't target the neutral Kusanagi country too much. Wu-wei pursed his lips. I know. If the war really breaks out, I will try to pass the information to you. Garashi shook his head slightly, his voice was very sincere. At this stage, it's still important to ensure your own safety. Remember, we're not fighting for the present, but for the future. Wu-wei took a deep breath and nodded vigorously. That agreement, I will do it. On the way back. This mission was exciting, even 2 rock Crypsis Jonin died. Asma sighed. But I don't feel like I participated. Hong Shin nodded in agreement. I feel like the most effort I made was to kill some robbers on the way. Compared to their relaxed and happy mood, Yamanaka Inoichi seemed to have a lot on his mind. Or, Kazekage. If Naruto-sama asks, what should I say? On the side, Asuma sighed and then whispered to Garashi, Garashi, what's the agreement between you and Wuei-senpai? Tell me, I promise I won't tell. Garashi smiled softly. There's nothing that can't be said. It's just an agreement to become the leader of each village and then, become the leader. Asuma screamed and saw Yamanaka Inoichi and Kurenai looking at him. His face was bitter and he immediately slapped himself. Garashi smiled helplessly. Didn't I say that there's no need to do this? That won't do. I'm a stubborn and principled man. Asuma muttered as he touched his slightly swollen cheek. By the way, you haven't finished yet. Garashi said leisurely, then we'll guard the peace together. Yamanaka Inoichi was a little surprised. I didn't expect that Kusanagi boy to have such a tolerance. Garashi shook his head slightly. He's not the kind of person who is afraid of death. The best way to persuade someone like him to change his decision is to let him agree with my beliefs. Fortunately, I did it. Hearing this, Asuma suddenly reacted. No, Garashi, don't you want to be the greatest medical ninja? Why are you fighting with me for Naruto? There's no conflict between the two, right? Garashi smiled and sighed. I've learned one thing from my growth over the years. The ability of medical ninja is limited. Medical skills alone can't change the world. Asuma's eyes were burning with flames. Even if my opponent is Garashi, I won't lose. Kurenai glanced at him. Your battle with Garashi, no matter in which aspect, has maintained a record of 0 win rate. I don't want to hear it. Become Naruto? Yes, after this incident, there's no way to treat him as a child. Yamanaka Inoichi watched quietly and inexplicably had a bold idea in his heart. Or, ask Garashi's opinion? Chapter 91. Ahem. Yamanaka Inoichi habitually cleared his throat. Well, Garashi, what do you think of the current situation? Asuma whispered, is it my illusion? I always feel that Yamanaka-sensei suddenly became wretched. Kurenai nodded in agreement, just like yesterday when Yamanaka-sensei asked us about the contents of the Psychology Society. Garashi pondered a little and said, if the news of Kazekage's disappearance is true, and war is unavoidable, then the entry point of the war is likely to be San Crypsis. The first possibility is that most of the people in San Crypsis are now in a panic. In order to divert the village's internal contradictions, the temporary Kazekage may use this as an excuse to start a war. The second possibility is that without the leadership of Kazekage, San Crypsis is in chaos and is at its weakest moment. It is likely to be coveted by a big country and will take advantage of the chaos to launch an attack. Yamanaka Inoichi rubbed his chin. I prefer the former. After all, the only big villages around San Crypsis are Rock Crypsis and Woodleaf. Our Woodleaf has never taken the initiative to start a war, and Rock Crypsis is against us because of this incident. It is unlikely to make enemies with San Crypsis at the same time. Garashi's eyes were heavy. In his previous life, there was not much description of the beginning of the Third Shinobi World War, so even he could not make an accurate judgment about it. And from our Woodleaf's point of view, the outbreak of war now is actually very dangerous. Garashi said and sighed, as those Rock Crypsis said, our Woodleaf senses in war are indeed dull. Yamanaka Inoichi looked dignified. Not to mention the preparation and mobilization for war, there are not many people who have a premonition of war vigilance. The outbreak of war in this case is undoubtedly very unfavorable to Woodleaf's situation. As if seeing the clouds of war, Asuma couldn't help but be nervous. How long before the war breaks out? It might never erupt or it might erupt tomorrow. The sadness between Yamanaka Inoichi's eyebrows lingered. In short, there's not much time left for us Woodleaf. Garashi crossed his arms and pondered for a moment. So, my idea is to postpone the detonation of the war slightly. Yamanaka Inoichi hurriedly asked, is there any way to do this? Garashi exhaled heavily, let's unite all the ninja villages and have a grand Chunin exam. Haha Woodleaf, your future Naruto is back. Asuma shouted as soon as he returned to Woodleaf. Garashi and Red stood a little further away from him, worried that others would see that they were together. Yamanaka Inoichi was still immersed in shock and thought, so he didn't care. Garashi, Red, I'm going to report the mission to Lord Naruto. You two can find a place to rest. After that, he left with a heavy heart. It's rare to see Yamanaka-sensei so heavy. Knowing this kind of thing, it's inevitable to be a little worried. Anyway, what happens next has nothing to do with us. Garashi smiled and invited, what you have to think about now is where to go for dinner later. Barbecue restaurant. Ramen restaurant. What do you know, barbecue is a man's romance. Humph? Then I'll say ramen is a woman's tenderness. The three laughed all the way, and as soon as they walked into the gourmet street, they heard a familiar noise in front of them. Bastard Kakashi, you're not allowed to steal my mission target. Oh. Damn, what does it mean? Bordered Soil was furious, and someone's teasing voice suddenly came from behind. I guess Kakashi must want to say that Bordered Soil is too slow or something. I'm obviously very fast. Bordered Soil turned back angrily and instantly became happy. Garashi, sensei, you're back? Kakashi and Rin also turned back happily. Garashi, sensei. Asuma, who was ignored again, was almost depressed. He rolled his eyes and took the initiative to ask, by the way, Bordered Soil, did you just come back from a mission? Looking at you, you should have completed a very difficult mission, right? Bordered Soil wiped his nose and smiled proudly. We completed a B-level mission. Wow, that's amazing. Asuma was very doggy flattering. Bordered Soil was still too naive, completely unaware of the danger approaching. Instead, he touched the back of his head embarrassedly. Actually, it's okay, it's just us. By the way, what level of mission did you complete? Oh, we can't do it, we're not even sure about the level of the mission, but... Asuma said with a sad face, killing 2 rock crypsis Jonin and dozens of Chunin and Genin, it's just SOSO. Not only Bordered Soil but even the cold Kakashi spat out. What's the situation? 2 Jonin? And they're not just Jonin from a small ninja village. If you add the dozens of Chunin and Genin that Asuma said, just in terms of the scale of the enemy, it's already the standard of an S-level mission, right? Asuma was still not satisfied. He smacked his lips and said, although we killed quite a lot of enemies, but the result doesn't seem to be much, it's just making a country that has turned to rock crypsis to become neutral again. To doggy. Looking at Asuma's face, Bordered Soil and the other 2 cursed in their hearts. Seeing the three's face turn green, Asuma's mood of being ignored finally became a little better. Speaking of which, my mission. Without waiting for him to finish, Kakashi rushed up with cold eyes. Woodleaf Secret Body Jutsu, Millennium Kill. Whoa. After a bit of noise, everyone finally returned to a peaceful state. However, Bordered Soil and the other 2 were still shocked. Garashi, senpai, did you really kill 2 rock crypsis Jonins? Garashi waved his hand and smiled. It's not as exaggerated as Asuma said, those 2 rock crypsis Jonins were set up to fight each other, and the last one was killed by us. Although Garashi said it lightly, Bordered Soil and the other 2 understood the difficulty of it. Not to mention how to make 2 rock crypsis Jonins fight to the death, just killing the remaining Jonin without any injuries is already amazing enough. Not to mention there were dozens of Chunin and Genin. Bordered Soil bit his finger, envious. Too powerful, I don't know when I can kill a Jonin? Kakashi's eyes were blazing with fighting spirit. Garashi, senpai has become more powerful, I also want to become stronger. You know. As Asuma spoke, he saw a few cold gazes directed at him. He hurriedly covered his tender buttocks and didn't dare to tease them anymore. Ha ha ha, let's go eat together? Speaking of eating, Bordered Soil suddenly woke up. Right, I thought you couldn't make it back in time, so I forgot to say, Garashi senpai, our patriarch wants to invite you to his son's full moon celebration. Chapter 92. At the same time in Naruto's office. Sandame held the pipe in one hand and held his forehead with the other. You mean most of Kusagakure has been infiltrated by rock crypsis, and then you not only found out who betrayed Woodleaf, but also killed 2 rock crypsis Jonin? Yamanaka nodded and then added, there are also 5 Chunin and 27 Genin. Sandame only felt his blood pressure rising a little and he quickly calmed down. After a long while, the 3rd generation exclaimed in surprise, you guys have really given me a huge surprise, to the point that I'm starting to wonder if I'm dreaming. Yamanaka quickly said, this time we can have such a harvest, in fact, it's all thanks to Garashi. Sandame nodded slightly, designing internal strife, swapping bodies, these operations really made an old man like me dazzled. However, what surprised me the most is that he was able to convince even those who hate Konoha from the bottom of their hearts. This kind of charisma. I have only seen it in Shodame-sama. Saying that, he sighed again, I was worried that this task would be dangerous, but I didn't expect that you raised the difficulty of the task by 2 levels, and you didn't encounter any danger during the whole process. I can now imagine how Asuma will show off to me when he goes back. Yamanaka couldn't help but laugh. According to his understanding of Asuma, this kind of thing is indeed very likely. After all, this is an achievement that even Naruto-sama couldn't achieve. Sandaime laughed for a while and his face became dignified again. As for the information you just mentioned about the disappearance of the Kazekage, in fact, the village has already received the news. What do you think about this? Yamanaka hesitated. This kind of thing Shikaku should know better than me, right? Sandaime smiled. I also discussed with him. Now, I want to hear your opinion as the person involved in the task. Since Sandaime had already said this, Yamanaka Inoichi had no choice but to say the speculation that he had previously discussed with Shushi. This is indeed the eternal theme of this world. Sandaime sighed and took out a few documents from the drawer and put them in front of Yamanaka Inoichi. Take a look, these are some changes in other villages. Yamanaka Inoichi read carefully. At first he was calm, but when he saw the last document, his pupils shrank instantly. Yunin's army has started to move out frequently? Yamanaka Inoichi's face was very ugly. The closest big villages to Yunin are only Arwood Leaf and Kirin. However, Kirin is far away from the mainland. It is easy to defend and difficult to attack. The only one who can be a target is Arwood Leaf. Sandaime also shook his head with a bitter smile. We can't say that Yunin went for Rock Crypsis or Sand Crypsis, right? Yamanaka Inoichi hurriedly asked, Naruto-sama, where are our current war preparations? It's still the first stage. Sandaime looked sad and his eyebrows twisted into a group. Whether it's armaments or drills, we are far inferior to Yunin. Alas, what we need most now is time, but the enemy won't give us time. Hearing this, Yamanaka Inoichi hesitated and asked, Naruto-sama, what if we hold a joint Chunin exam for all ninja villages? Joint Chunin exam? Sandaime's eyebrows twitched. In addition to attracting the attention of all parties and delaying the outbreak of war, we can also use this Chunin exam to test the position of all countries, and at the same time declare force and try to win over other small ninja villages as much as possible. Yamanaka Inoichi added. Sandaime didn't immediately state his position but said, suddenly proposing a Chunin exam at this time is likely to alert other villages, and most of them won't agree to our invitation. Yamanaka Inoichi nodded, so this can't be opened by us. Sandaime finally got a little interested. Then who do you think should propose it? Yamanaka Inoichi smiled. Naruto-sama, have you heard about the changes in Kirin's graduation exam this year? Sandaime took a puff of his pipe. You mean the young man who killed all the candidates and forced Kirin to reform? Yes, I heard that his name is Momochi if you don't kill. Yamanaka Inoichi's mouth showed an evil smile. We can let the spies planted in Kirin encourage the high-level officials to hold the Chunin exam. The reason is that there may be a gap in the talents of Kirin. In order to balance the power of the villages, let the boy if you don't kill Momochi kill all the candidates of other villages in the Chunin exam. Sandaime's eyes lit up, understanding Yamanaka Inoichi's idea. Kirin is far abroad and it's impossible to hold the Chunin exam, and they should also understand this truth. As long as they can balance the power of the villages, most of them won't insist on this issue. Yamanaka Inoichi nodded. In this way, Kirin is just an advocate, and we can take the opportunity to take the initiative to be the organizer. Sandaime pondered for a moment, but the other three villages can't sit back and watch Wood Leaf expand his influence. Yamanaka Inoichi solemnly said, so we may have to pay a little price. Price. Sandaime quickly understood and blew a smoke ring. The only thing that can attract the other villages should be the precious legacy left by the former Kage, right? You want to say that part of the forbidden jutsu in the Book of Seals will be the reward for the Chunin exam? Yamanaka Inoichi added, if there is no seal they can take back the reward. Otherwise, the other villages won't give in to the benefits that the young ninja in their village may get. Sandaime smiled bitterly. Inoichi, you have given me a big problem. If they take away the forbidden jutsu, I won't have the face to see the former Kage. Sandaime really has a headache. Even if he excludes the super dangerous forbidden jutsu like Edo Tensei, those relatively ordinary forbidden jutsu will be very troublesome to spread. Not to mention, Danzo will definitely use this to attack and force him to give up his position. According to the information we have received in recent years, there have been several very powerful newcomers in other villages, but Yamanaka Inoichi shrugged. Compared with them, Arwood Leaf is cheating. Sandaime smiled knowingly. That's right. Asking Garashi to take the Chunin exam can no longer be described as excessive. It's simply shameless. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but sigh. It's a pity that Kakashi was promoted to Chunin at the age of 6. Otherwise, we can let the other villages feel the enthusiasm of our wood leaf. Yamanaka Inoichi's eyes twitched wildly. Naruto-sama, you don't want to be a human anymore? Seeing Sandame's tendency to let go of himself, Yamanaka Inoichi quickly patched it up. In fact, our main purpose is to delay the war. If we can't be the organizer, it will only have some impact on the small ninja villages. Sandame waved his hand indifferently. I still have the courage to use the Book of Seals, and I also believe that the child Garashi won't let me down. Now the biggest problem is how to make Kirin believe that if you don't kill has the ability to kill all the candidates. Or just brag about it? If it doesn't work, we can join forces with the Sand Crypsis to launch the Chunin exam. They should need time like us now. Chapter 93. Uchiha Clan. It was very lively outside, but it was very quiet inside. Yagadame-sama, you should have also noticed the aura of war, right? I wasn't sure at first, but since Patriarch said so, then it seems inevitable. Fugaku said with a dignified expression, as the most powerful clan in the Woodleaf Empire, it is inevitable for us to participate in the war, and I don't oppose it, but I am worried that someone will use this opportunity to suppress our clan. Hakadame-sama squinted his eyes. Is it the one who claims to have continued the will of second Naruto? Fugaku couldn't help but smile bitterly. It seems that Danzo's malice towards our clan has reached the point where he doesn't even bother to hide it. Hakadame-sama shook his head slightly. Even if we know, there is nothing we can do, Patriarch, what do you think? Fugaku pondered for a moment. Although it is a bit unreasonable to say this, I still propose to focus on protecting the younger generation of the clan who awakened the Sharingan. Hakadame-sama nodded in agreement. The Kekkei Genkai is the foundation of a clan like the Kurama clan. It is because the younger generation who awakened their Kekkei Genkai is getting fewer and fewer, that's why they are gradually declining. Speaking of the Kurama clan, Fugaku said with some emotion, last time when I was taking care of Mikoto in the hospital, I happened to meet the patriarch of the Kurama clan. His child was born a few days earlier than Itachi, but there was no movement in the village. Hakadame-sama also sighed, a declining clan, no one will care about it. That's why we have to try our best to preserve the foundation of the clan. Fugaku looked outside. My idea is to let the younger generation of the clan who awakened their Sharingan join the ranks of those who are kind to our clan, or those who are neutral. Hakadame-sama suddenly realized, so, you invited so many guests today to test their position? Fugaku sighed, I can't think of a good way in a short time. I can only say that we should avoid Danzo as much as possible. Hakadame-sama nodded. I will go with you to observe the attitude of others. Both of them were a little depressed. The Uchiha clan that was once famous during the Warring States period has now fallen to the point of being scared by a mummy. Seeing the atmosphere was a little dull, Hakadame-sama jokingly said, but is it really good to do this? If you treat a newborn Itachi as a tool, be careful that he will take revenge on you in the future. Fugaku laughed carelessly. Haha, we are clearly a father and a son who is filial. Hakadai also laughed. Hurry up and go out. It's not right for you to stay in the house all the time. Outside. The children sat at a table by themselves. Tell me about it, tell me about it. Obito tugged at Shushi's sleeve and begged with a pitiful look on his face. Garashi calmly pulled out his sleeve and said helplessly, you should ask Asma about the details. You will be happy to tell you. The image of Asma's huge dog smile appeared in front of the bordered soil. The corner of his mouth twitched. Forget it. Shionyen, on the other hand, was howling madly from the side. A Wu, too powerful, really too powerful. Seeing Shionyen almost transformed on the spot, Hakadame-sama, who was walking out with Fugaku, came over with a black face and slapped him on the back of his head. Pay attention to the ending, don't lose face for the patriarch. Shionyen, who was interrupted, turned back with a wronged face. Am I not excited? Hakadame-sama said angrily. You are a Chunin, can't you be more calm like Garashi? Shionyen whispered, what's wrong with being a Chunin? Even 2 Chunin were killed by Garashi. Hakadame-sama's eyes widened. What did you say? Shionyen winked provocatively. Calm Chunin. Och, why did you hit me again? Hakadame-sama looked calm. I have double standards, what's wrong? Shunien instantly retreated. Well, it's Shushi who killed 2 Jonins of the Rock Village and dozens of Chunin and Genin during this mission. Well, he is indeed the man I admire. Hakadame-sama and Fugaku looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. They knew that Yamanaka Inoichi was not the kind of Chunin with strong combat power. In other words, this result was mostly related to Garashi's team. And in their view, Asuma and Kurenai were still a little immature. In this way, only Garashi could create a miracle. Thinking of this, Fugaku couldn't help but sigh. It's a pity that you are too young, Garashi. Otherwise, I would ask you to be Itachi's godfather. Hearing this, Garashi couldn't help but twitch his mouth. This guy with thick eyebrows and big eyes actually wants to harm me. It was night when the banquet ended. Shushi returned to his room and sat cross-legged on his bed. His eyes were shining brightly. Sure enough, this is what I'm lacking. With the experience of switching bodies as a reference, this last hurdle won't hold me back. Thinking of this, Garashi closed his eyes. The next moment, a pure white spiritual body floated out from the top of his head. Is this the soul state? The spiritual body floated back and forth in the air curiously. Then it looked at its body that seemed to have fallen asleep. This feeling is indeed wonderful. After a little adapting to this state, Garashi's spiritual body returned to his body. Like a small fish that jumped out of the sea and fell back into the sea, comfortable and peaceful. With my most powerful soul talent, years of training in Genjutsu, and Kato Duan's experience, and 5 months of training, plus this last personal experience, I finally succeeded. Garashi exhaled and shook his head gently. Sure enough, any S-class ninjutsu is not so easy to learn. However, with the spiritualization technique, I can finally covet that ability. Garashi's eyes were slightly burning. With his current strength, the spiritualization technique can't bring any increase in combat power. However, he never valued the spiritualization technique because of its combat power, but because of the development of the ability attached to the spiritualization technique. Wait, let's calm down first. Don't be impatient. Wait until I fully adapt to the spiritualization technique before moving on to the next step. Garashi muttered to himself and his eyes returned to the calm state of an ancient well. Many plans were aborted at the last moment before they succeeded. Of course, he wouldn't make such a mistake. After half an hour of adapting to the new environment and setting up a barrier around him, Rinstone returned to his spirit form and looked around. In my previous life's memory, the soul can also be seen by others. Although it's troublesome for safety's sake, it's better to go underground. Thinking of this, Garashi no longer hesitated and jumped into the ground. In his spiritual body state, he naturally wouldn't be obstructed by the rocks and soil. The only problem he had to consider was the direction. Fortunately, he had already memorized the layout of the Woodleaf clan. The speed at which the spirit body moved was extremely fast. It was as if the spirit body could move at will. Not long after, he arrived at his destination, the Pommel clan's land. This once famous Woodleaf clan had gradually declined under the baptism of time. Garashi didn't care about this. His spiritual body flashed and moved into a warm room. On the bed, a couple had already fallen asleep. On the side of the bed there was a small cradle. Garashi no longer hesitated and his spiritual body flew into the baby's body in the cradle. In the next moment, the sleeping baby opened her eyes. This is the Pommel clan's bloodline limit? It's really magical. Using the baby girl's body, Shushi was able to sense the potential and power of this blood inheritance. Next, it's time to analyze and deduce the composition of this bloodline limit. He valued the spiritualization technique for this reason. With the experience of personally using it, it was equivalent to seeing the whole process of the derivation in front of him. I hope that I can complete this bloodline limit before the war ends. Otherwise, some of my ideas won't be easy to realize. Chapter 94. Kirin. Looking at the thick fog in the sky, Sanin Shangqing closed the door and windows in disgust. Sigh, when will this end? Sanin Shangqing sighed and began his routine work. Summoning technique. The next moment, a pug appeared at his feet. The pug glanced at him. After confirming that there was no mistake, it spat out the paper tube in its mouth. Oh, the village finally remembered me. Sanin Shangqing was excited. He carefully picked up the paper tube, spread it out, quickly memorized it and quickly burned the paper. Then he frowned and sat on the chair. Spread rumors? If you don't kill Momochi? Although Kirin is overseas and not well informed, it's still difficult to make them believe that if you don't kill is invincible. After thinking for a moment, Sanin Shangqing had a flash of inspiration. First, let's use if you don't kill Momochi to warm up the atmosphere, then I'll assassinate him, fake my death, and finally spread the news that Woodleaf is afraid of him. In this way, the anger of their own village's genius being assassinated, coupled with the desire to suppress other villages, maybe Kirin will think that the Chunin exam is a good choice. Thinking of this, Sanan Shangqing quickly arranged his own fake death to escape. Well, finally I can leave this damn place. A few days later, If You Don't Kill, who was walking on the street as usual, found that the eyes of the people around him changed a lot. He's If You Don't Kill Momochi? The bastard who killed my brother in the graduation exam? Keep your voice down, he's a monster proficient in silent assassination. I heard that he's going to kill again in the Chunin exam? Humph. This kind of monster should go to other villages as soon as possible. Yeah, if he can kill ninjas from other villages in the Chunin exam, he'll be a little useful. If You Don't Kill stopped and looked at them coldly. The murderous intent almost froze the blood of the villagers, and they fled in panic. A bunch of trash. If You Don't Kill whispered contemptuously while licking his dry lips, but the Chunin exam? At this moment his heart throbbed and he subconsciously dodged to the side. Boom. A flame dragon almost brushed past his body and blasted a hole in the ground. Assassination? If You Don't Kill was not afraid. Instead, there was a faint excitement in his eyes. Water release, chaotic water wave. Seeing the turbulent water rushing towards him, Mikami was slightly surprised. He can use a C-class ninjutsu so skillfully, If You Don't Kill seems to be very powerful. But this is good. This way, I won't have to waste any extra effort to prove his talent. Min Shangqing knew that Kirin's dark unit would arrive soon. If he didn't hurry up, he would really die. Therefore, according to his original plan, he deliberately used the most beautiful ninjutsu to prove his strength. Fire release, fire dragon flame bullet. Water release, water dragon bullet technique. Are you kidding me? A 9-year-old kid can use a B-class ninjutsu? Min Shangqing's eyes widened and he almost screamed. This is also because he has been away from home all year round. He didn't know that Wood Leaf was even worse than this. At this moment, seeing the ferocious water dragon rushing towards him, Min Shangqing's face instantly turned pale. I was worried about accidentally killing him, so I deliberately changed the direction of the ninjutsu. He can't even use a ninjutsu accurately. Is this idiot coming to die? If You Don't Kill's eyes were cold and his hands quickly printed. Water release, water tooth bullet. Another B-class ninjutsu. Are the kids these days so exaggerated? Min Shangqing, who just escaped from the water dragon, saw two highly compressed and rotating sharp teeth coming towards him, and he didn't have time to think about it. If I underestimate this kid again, I may really die. Fire release, fire dragon technique. The water and fire collided, and a scorching hot fog instantly rose. The fog shrouded the surroundings. If You Don't Kill simply burst out all the chakra in his body at once. Silent killing. What the hell is that? Min Shangqing saw a ghostly dark red stream of air flashing through the thick fog, and his hair was a little numb. No, I have to run for my life. But he just took half a step. If You Don't Kill judged his position from the sound. A painful scream came from the thick fog, and the villagers in the distance were scared for a while. When the thick fog dispersed, the Umbu who came late saw the situation inside. In the ground of minced meat, If You Don't Kill stood there quietly, and his face was a little gloomy. This is Wood Leaf's forehead protector. A sharp-eyed Umbu picked up a forehead protector from the minced meat. It's Wood Leaf's people. If You Don't Kill, did you see the enemy's face? If You Don't Kill looked at him coldly and turned away without saying a word. The hidden Fog Dark group member who asked the question was furious. This bastard, does he really think he's some big shot? The Umbu on the side pulled him. Being assassinated, I guess this guy is not happy. Another Umbu also said, in any case he killed a Wood Leaf spy, and it seems that he's not an ordinary Chunin. Let's go report to Mizuki-sama first. In the distance, under the rock wall, Sanyuan Shangqing, who was covered in blood, was sweating profusely. Trembling, he grabbed a handful of blood-increasing pills and threw them into his mouth. After a long time, his pale face had a little color. That was close. If I didn't let Xiaohei hear my voice, maybe I would have died in the hands of a genin. At the same time, Min Shangqing was worried. Although I was careless, this kid is really powerful. Naruto-sama shouldn't have misjudged, right? If he really appeared in the Chunin exam, it would be a complete massacre against our Wood Leaf's genin. Soon, Wood Leaf's forehead protector and Min Shangqing's previous residence were sent to the Mizukage. Kimura Kazuki, it should be a fake name. The Mizukage's face was gloomy as he looked around. Lurking for so long without being discovered, your intelligence is really slow. The Umbu around him bowed their heads in shame. However, a spy lurking for so long exposed himself for If You Don't Kill. The Mizukage narrowed his eyes and asked, "What do you think?" And Umbu replied, "Maybe if you don't kill said that he would kill everyone in the Chunin exam, that would Leaf Ninja is worried that we will hold the Chunin exam? Maybe?" The Mizukage emphasized his tone. Confirmed. The Umbu who spoke was depressed, that guy didn't cooperate at all, he could only take it as a yes. Another Umbu also said, "According to the intelligence, Sandame Naruto's son also graduated this year, maybe Wood Leaf is worried that if you don't kill we'll meet him?" Another Umbu said, "Our genin was killed by if you don't kill, why not take this opportunity to suppress the genin of other villages?" Speaking of this, the other Umbu suddenly became active. "Yes, if you don't kill can even kill Wood Leaf special jonin, it will definitely be a massacre against the genin of other villages. If there is an important person like Naruto's son in the Chunin exam, we may be able to threaten other villages to get resources." The Mizukage didn't speak, only the sound of his fingers tapping on the table echoed in the room. After a long time, he said indifferently, "Well, it's time to let the ninja world remember the horror of Kirin." Chapter 95. Yin. The Raikage held his head with one hand and tapped on the document with the other. "Kirin proposed to hold the joint Chunin exam, what do you think about this?" As a trusted aide of the Raikage, Tsudai said after a moment of silence. "Maybe it's to strengthen the influence of Kirin. They're far away from the 5 great villages, and they're almost removed from the list of the 5 great villages." On the other side, the alternate Raikage AI who has inherited the title of Raikage said, "Then let's hold it, Yunin is definitely the strongest in the ninja world." The surrounding Jonins nodded heavily. In their view, Wood Leaf is old and weak, Rock Crypsis is timid and cowardly, Sand Crypsis is weak and arrogant, Kirin is remote and backward, and the 4 great villages are not worth mentioning. Only Yunin should be thriving and become the center of the world. The Raikage nodded. "I think so too. Before the war we should declare our strength, at least let those small countries see who's the boss of the world. Now the question is who should hold the Chunin exam." As soon as his voice fell, the Jonins in the room discussed fiercely. "Of course, it should be held by our Yunin. Are you an idiot? What if other villages take this opportunity to inquire about our military strength?" Wood Leaf seems to have also made a request. "No, even if we don't hold it, we can't give it to Wood Leaf. But the rewards they offered are very tempting. They also said that we can hold it, but we must offer the same level of rewards." "Are you kidding me? Our Yunin has always been a one-way ticket." "Enough." The Raikage raised his right hand and motioned them to be quiet. "Send someone to tell Wood Leaf that I agree to their request." "Raikage-sama, this? Oh, Wood Leaf is in a hurry to give us a gift, then I have to accept it," the Raikage said and looked to the side. "Tsudai, let Yuki graduate early." Tutai's eyes lit up. "You want to? Although she's only 8 years old, a Jinchuriki is still a Jinchuriki." The Raikage laughed wildly. "If you encounter an enemy you can't beat, just let her break the seal." Tutai said in shock, "Remove the seal? What if second last escapes?" The Raikage laughed. "That's something Wood Leaf has to worry about. Since he wants to be the organizer he has to take some risks. At worst we can thank Wood Leaf for his efforts." The surrounding Jonins looked at him with admiration, as he was worthy of being the Raikage-sama. Although he looked boorish and irritable, he was actually very cunning. Sand Crypsis. "How is it? Is there still no news from Kazekage-sama?" Old C asked in a deep voice. Raza, the temporary Kazekage, shook his head. "However, the Kazekage is the strongest Kage in the history of our Sand Crypsis. With his strength he won't die so easily." "I hope so. Our Sand Crypsis is now a joke in the shinobi world," Chio said faintly. Although it's a bit unreasonable to say this. Ebizo looked around at everyone in the room, but if we continue to search, it will only make the defense force become understaffed, and in the current situation of the shinobi world, it's really not a wise decision. Hearing what he said, the Jonins of the original Kazekage faction were furious. "Old C, what do you mean by this? If you say this, don't tell me that you and your brother assassinated the Kazekage?" "Yes, Chio, your genius grandson seems to have disappeared. Maybe you were worried about your assassination so you deliberately sent him away." "Raza, say something." Raza was a little helpless. From a rational point of view, he naturally agreed with Old C's proposal. But from a reasonable point of view, as the temporary Kazekage, if he gave up looking for the former Kazekage, what would others think of him? Sand Crypsis is bound to have internal conflicts. Seeing the quarrel between the two sides getting more and more intense, Raza had to use his power as the Kazekage. "That's enough, quiet down." If you still recognize me as the temporary Kazakage. Seeing the others looking at him, Raza said seriously, the current situation is not optimistic for us, and we don't have time to quarrel over such meaningless things. First, the mission of searching for the third Kazakage will continue. Second, agree to Kirin's proposal for the joint Chunin exam. After the tense situation calmed down, Raza further added, the news of Kazakage-sama's disappearance is estimated to be known by all the villages. If we give up the search easily, it will only make the other villages look down on us and see how weak we are. Of course, old C-senpai's question is also very pertinent. The key is time, and what we lack is time, and Kirin's proposal for the joint Chunin exam just meets our current needs. All the Jonins nodded in agreement. Although Raza is young, his ability is really outstanding. Raza, who are you going to take the Chunin exam as the team leader? Let Marky go. Although he's not the top genius, he graduated a few years ago. In terms of experience in actual combat, he's not comparable to ordinary genin. Well, even if we want to delay time, we can't lose momentum. Rock Crypsis. Tell me what's going on. Anoki's face was very ugly. All the Jonins looked at each other, and finally Hokage stood up and said, Tsuchikage-sama, it's indeed as the Kusanagi said. There are traces of a fierce battle with Kurwashi on Yongdo's body. Even if there were Yamanaka ninjas present, it's absolutely impossible to control a Jonin for such a long time. In addition, we also found some of Kurwashi's previous movements, so he probably really betrayed Rock Crypsis. They didn't doubt Wu Wei, but the conclusion showed that he didn't lie. After all, Wu Wei was telling the truth in a sense. A traitor ruined dozens of our elites and most of our plans in Kusanagi. It's simply unforgivable. Anoki gritted his teeth and cursed. If not for the fact that Blackstone was so dead that not even his ashes were left, he would have wanted to use dust escape on Blackstone's corpse. The group of Jonins were also furious and started cursing. Anoki was silent for a while and then raised his hand to stop them. Well, let's let this matter be sealed forever. If we continue to make trouble, we will only be laughed at by other villages. After a pause, Anoki asked, what do you think about the joint Chunin exam? Magic Leech said, I think it's okay to use this as a reason to divert the internal conflicts of the village. Oishi also nodded. After all, dozens of families lost their loved ones because of a traitor. The impact is too bad. As for Woodleaf's proposal, they may want to take the opportunity to expand their influence in those small countries. After all, there are 9 small countries bordering them. Hokuto calmly analyzed. However, this won't have much impact on Rock Crypsis. At the same time, there are 3 countries bordering us and Woodleaf, the Rain Country, the Grass Country, and the Waterfall Country. The Rain Country has Hanzo the Salamander, and Kusanagi is still biased towards us, so the only loss for the organizers is the Waterfall Country. On the other hand, we can use this to find out the real situation of Woodleaf and their military distribution. Besides, didn't they also give out a reward? No matter how you look at it, we won't lose. Anoki pondered for a moment. Tell Woodleaf that we agree. Chapter 96. Woodleaf Hospital. Ah. Tachikamaru, bear with it. In the ward, a big orange dog was lying on the bed and whining in pain. Only when a tall ninja approached it did it manage to remain calm. The tall ninja gently stroked its hair and glanced at the dark green wound on the dog's abdomen. His eyes were full of pain and self-blame. Inazuki-san, please try to keep it calm. Yeah, we can't check it at all. The surrounding medical ninjas were helpless. They were almost bitten when they tried to get close. If they applied medicine to it, wouldn't they be torn apart? Inazuka also knew their difficulties and didn't blame them. He just kept comforting Tachikamaru. At this time, a reassuring voice came from outside the door. Sorry, Garashi, I used Flying Thunder God to rush you here. It's okay, saving people is the duty of a medical ninja. Garashi and Minato walked in side by side. Minato smiled awkwardly. Haha, what if it's to save a dog? Garashi also saw the situation in the ward at this moment and said helplessly, it seems that I can only temporarily act as a veterinarian. After saying that, Shushi walked up to the table without looking back. Wait, be careful. Before Inazuka could finish his words, he saw his dog whimper under the touch of the child and betrayed him. What's going on? Inazuka's jaw was at a loss. His Tachikamaru was the most irritable among the ninja dogs, and now it was injured. How could it be so docile to a child it met for the first time? Garashi smiled apologetically. Unrelated personnel, please leave temporarily. Inazuka's jaw pointed to himself. Me, unrelated personnel? Minato next to him hugged him and dragged him away. Garashi, rest assured. Outside the door, Inuzuka jaw was still a little worried. Minato, is this okay? After all, he just heard the child say that he was a temporary veterinarian. Minato smiled. Don't worry, Garashi is Tsunade-sama's proud disciple. Inuzuka jaw's eyes lit up. He's Shimizu Garashi? I heard that his medical skills are almost second only to Tsunade-sama. Minato patted him on the shoulder. This is your chance to make friends with Garashi. Don't blame me for not telling you. Inuzuka jaw nodded emotionally. In this thorny ninja world, it's really important to have a good relationship with a powerful medical ninja. I will definitely, creak. The door opened and Garashi walked out. Inuzuka jaw hurriedly asked, Dr. Garashi, how is Tachikamaru's condition? Have your injuries stabilized? Garashi said calmly, it's done. Inuzuka-ju was dumbfounded. That's it? That's a powerful poison concocted by Sancrypsis Jonin. Garashi smiled and pointed at the room. Why don't we go in and take a look? Alright. Inuzuka-ja was about to rush in, but he forced himself to stop and bowed 90 degrees. Thank you very much. Garashi smiled slightly. This is the most comfortable place for a top medical ninja. He doesn't need to worry at all. There will be a large group of people rushing to give him experience. After the experience he can also gain their gratitude. Minato was still a little apologetic. I'm sorry for pulling you here in such a hurry. Garashi smiled helplessly. Brother Minato, we don't have to talk about our relationship, right? Of course, next time, let's make things clear in advance. Seeing you so nervous, I thought something happened to Shina Kushina, me. Minato laughed twice. Inuzuka-san has always taken care of me. Tachikamaru was poisoned to cover us. Shushi took note of the message. A temporary team? Minato nodded, looking a little depressed. This time we have a team of 3 jonins. It's reasonable to say that there shouldn't be too much of a problem. But who knew, as soon as we sneaked in, we encountered more than a dozen jonins from Sancrypsis. If it weren't for the flying thunder god jutsu, we wouldn't have been able to come back this time. Garashi was a little speechless. It seems that this can't be described as bad luck. However, sneaking in at this time, Naruto-sama wants you to find out if Sancrypsis has found Kazekage? Probably. Minato replied casually and suddenly reacted. Garashi, how do you know Kazekage? We just learned a little inside information from the last mission. So? Minato was talking when Asuma ran all the way from a distance. Garashi, big news, big news. Hey Minato-san, you're here too? Looking at Asuma's rash appearance, Minato's eyes were a little strange. Should I say that this is the product of Naruto-sama? Asuma didn't care about Minato's reaction and said excitedly, the other 4 villages have agreed, and 11 of those small countries have confirmed to participate. In other words, this may be the largest Chunin exam since the era of shinobi villages. Asuma shouted with pride. And this is the Chunin exam held by Woodleaf. Sandame actually agreed to use those jutsu as a reward. Garashi wasn't surprised that Sandame agreed to the proposal of the Chunin exam. After all, this is indeed beneficial to Woodleaf's current situation. What surprised him was that Sandame actually had the courage to use forbidden jutsu as a stake. If he accidentally used a few of the jutsu handed down by Nidame Naruto, even if it's advantageous from a macro-strategic point of view, he would definitely be criticized by Danzo. For me now, strengthening my body and increasing the upper limit of chakra are the most important things. I already have enough jutsu. Unless it's a jutsu that controls the 5 senses, I don't need to spend too much energy on ordinary jutsu. My need for the Scroll of Seals is just to enrich my knowledge and prepare for the development of Kekkei Genkai in the future. Compared to the reward, I actually value the Chunin exam more. Garashi said with some emotion. He's too young, and the limitation of his age will be the biggest stumbling block for him to achieve his dreams. So, I want to become famous as soon as possible, and use this Chunin exam as a starting point for me to truly step on the stage of Shinobi World. Thinking of this, Garashi's calm mind couldn't help but have a little wave. As for the assassination targets after becoming famous, he doesn't care, and he's even happy to have more of them. With the support of the Flying Thunder God Jutsu and his own medical ninjutsu, there are still many people in the world who can defeat him, but there are almost no people who can completely kill him. Not to mention his trump cards are far more than just these 2. On the side, Asuma waved his arm discontentedly. Huh? Are you listening to me, Shushi? Garashi smiled apologetically. Sorry, I was also shocked by the scene you described. Asma patted him on the shoulder. Then you have to listen carefully this time, the old man said. Let you, cough, he said that one of us must win first place. Chapter 97. In Shina Kushina's house. Why did I become a chunin so early? I missed such a good opportunity to show my face. Schwenin-san, don't regret it, no one will care about the stars when there is a sun. Damn it. I should be the moon, right? Impossible. Of course the moon is me, Asma. Don't quarrel, aren't we here to analyze the strength of the major ninja villages? That being said, everyone was noisy and there was no worry or pressure. In their view, there is no one who can be stronger than Garashi in the genin stage. There are a total of 24 ninjas in Kirin village. If you don't kill, Empress show me eye? Kurenai analyzed seriously, and seeing Garashi's expression was a little strange, she couldn't help but ask, is there a problem, Garashi? Garashi smiled gently, it's nothing, you continue to analyze. Kurenai nodded her head. Naruto-sama said that this information is not completely accurate, but according to the existing information, the most threatening ninja in Kirin is if you don't kill. Oh, if you don't kill is now more famous than the future Mizukage? Garashi only felt a little funny, but then he understood. The current Empress Shomiai probably hasn't developed her own Kekkei Genkai yet. After all, although Kirin is not as dark as the fourth Mizukage after the dark-bordered soil, the prejudice against Kekkei Genkai still exists because of its remote and backward background. If Empress Shomiai was born with 2 Kekkei Genkai, then her life in Kirin will definitely not be easy. Beside him, Kurenai was still seriously analyzing. As for Yunin, there are a total of 66 ninjas. They are the 2 Yuki Samui. Hearing this familiar name, Shushi's attention was also diverted. Of course, he wasn't focused because of a future ferocious woman. Second last? Is Yunin trying to cheat because she can't win? Looking at the information that Sandame had specifically given her, Red was a little surprised. Isn't Yunin being too aggressive this time? It seemed that many people were forced to graduate early. However, they don't seem to have any particularly amazing genin here. Garashi shook his head slightly. In his opinion, the biggest threat to the Chunin exam should be the Yuki. In the genin stage, Jinchuriki is completely unreasonable. But this is good. Garashi chuckled in his heart. The boring Chunin exam doesn't have anything to talk about. I can't be the only one singing a one-man show. Kurenai's analysis fast-forwarded to San Crypsis. There are 30 participants in San Crypsis. Among them, the most important one to pay attention to is a ninja named Marky. He is originally a genius in San Crypsis, and he is 3 years older than us. Garashi's eyes fluctuated slightly. Indeed, it was another acquaintance. Finally, there are 45 participants in Rock Crypsis. They are Purple Earth, Thunder. Garashi was really surprised when he heard the last part. There doesn't seem to be any acquaintances on Rock Crypsis's side. Did all the geniuses die in the future war, or did they not have any geniuses at all? That's it. After listening to the analysis, Asma shouted confidently, there aren't many who can fight at all. I, invincible under the rock, have already scheduled to meet Garashi in the finals. Ibixi glanced at him. What if you and Garashi meet in the qualifiers? Asma was dumbfounded. This? Kurenai covered her mouth and chuckled. Of course it's to defeat Garashi. I remember someone said 4 years ago that he could defeat Garashi in 4 years at most. Asma's momentum weakened. Maybe I will break out that day? Garashi smiled and helped him out. Asma, didn't Naruto-sama say that we should try to win over the ninjas of those small countries? Asma, who was saved, quickly continued the topic. Yes, the old man is like this. Garashi, do you have a way? Garashi nodded slightly. I just need your help. At the same time, in the hotel where Yunin was staying. As the leader, Tsudai warned seriously, in this exam not only will Reikage-sama appear in the final competition, but the other 4 villages Kages will also be present. Your performance represents the face of our Yunin, so you must show us the style of Yunin, understand? The group of Yunin's ninjas was like thunder. Understood. Tsudai nodded with satisfaction. The others are dismissed first, but Yuki, stay. When the others left, Tsudai asked with a dignified face, you know the information of other villages, how confident are you in this exam? Yujito Rin swung her ponytail energetically. I will definitely win. Very good. Although there are many geniuses in other villages, they shouldn't pose any threat to you. Tutai's voice became heavy as he said, Woodleaf, that's Shimizu Garashi. Once you meet him, just enter your tailed beast mode. Yuki puffed up her cheeks. But I want to defeat him with my own strength. For the kitten's proud reaction, Todai skillfully comforted it. Tailed beasts are originally part of the strength of a Jinchuriki, just like the puppet masters of the Sand Crypsis. Can you force them not to use puppets? Furthermore, that Shimizu Garashi is 2 years older than you. It would be unfair to limit your strength. In the hotel where Kirin was staying, Woodleaf's Shimizu Garashi, Sand Crypsis's Marky, Rock Crypsis's Purple Earth. The two girls discussed seriously, and one of them looked at someone who didn't fit in next to her with dissatisfaction. If you don't kill, we are a team. You should listen carefully. If you don't kill, wipe the blade indifferently. Women will only affect the speed of my sword. Violet Knight said angrily. What do you mean? If you don't kill, narrowed his eyes and looked at her. Don't you understand? Don't hinder me from killing people, otherwise I will kill you too. Empress Shomiai quickly stood up to appease the two and then said, if you don't kill, I know you are strong, but that Shimizu Garashi is known as the strongest genius of Woodleaf in 20 years. You will suffer if you underestimate him. If you don't kill, took off his mask and licked the dagger in his hand. It is interesting to kill people like him, isn't it? On the sand side. Marky Dage, you must take first place in this exam. That's right, let the other villages know the power of Sand Crypsis. Although he was praised by everyone, Marky didn't lose his calm. Compared to those real geniuses, I only have the advantage of age. There is nothing to be proud of. He had seen real geniuses, and it was a gap that ordinary people could never surpass. If it is Sasori, he can definitely do it. Thinking of this, his mood became heavier. Shimizu Garashi, is he a genius like Sasori? As for Rock Crypsis, your enemy this time is Woodleaf, who used despicable means to plot against many of our excellent ninjas. Magic Leech, Sama, I heard that the despicable Woodleaf squad also participated in the Chunin exam. It is better to let us do it. Magic Leech frowned slightly. If you meet that squad, I allow you to escape directly. Purple Earth couldn't believe it. Magic Leech, Sama, how can we admit defeat to those despicable guys? Magic Leech's face was cold. Can't you hear what I said? Purple Earth's face turned red, but in the end, he bowed his head weakly. I know. Magic Leech didn't care and glanced at everyone. Except for the Woodleaf squad, the other Woodleaf ninjas can be your prey, understand? Understood. Chapter 98. Look, that's a ninja from the Rain Country. That's a Hoshino from the Bear Country. Yunin's people are also here. They're not easy to deal with. As time passed, more and more ninjas from other villages appeared in Konoha. The news of the joint Chunin exam also spread. In this regard, most of the villagers of Woodleaf were happy to see it. After all, holding such a grand Chunin exam is a symbol of national strength. At this moment, several Woodleaf ninjas were whispering to each other in an izakaya. Where is Sand Crypsis? I took a shortcut. They should be 2 minutes away. Where is Yunin? About 3 minutes. The actors are already in place. Asma, let's watch your performance. Damn, why do I have to play such a retarded role? Really? It's obviously your style. What? Have I always been like this in your eyes? This is called great wisdom. Look stupid. At least in the eyes of other villages, this kind of thing is very in line with your character. Ibiki urged. There's no time, hurry up. Asma muttered with a depressed face, but as soon as he stepped into the street, he instantly got into the mood. Bandana man over there, are you Marky from Sand Crypsis? The Sand Crypsis ninjas who were talking and laughing stopped and turned their heads to look at the side, only to see a gangster with a cigarette in his mouth shouting. Marky frowned and said coldly. That's me. I heard that you are the most powerful ninja in Sand Crypsis. You look very ordinary. In the eyes of the Sand Crypsis ninjas, Asma shrugged and said, sorry, I'm a straightforward person. You bastard. At this time, several ninjas of Yunin happened to come to a fork in the road from another road. It seems that there is something interesting to watch. Yuki excitedly pulled his friend and squeezed through the crowd. Samui, let's go and take a look. No, this isn't cool at all. Samui resisted, but he was still dragged over. Marky stopped the underling who was about to make a move. Who are you? Do you want to fight? Asma pointed at himself with his thumb. My name is Asma, and I'm the second most powerful person among Woodleaf's genin. The third Naruto's son? Marky naturally knew about the other party's information, but he still found it hard to believe. One day I'll make you call him Asma's father. Asma said rebelliously. Just as the intelligence said. Marky's mouth twitched. You came here just to tell me this? Asuma waved his hand impatiently. Some ignorant guy said that the 5 most famous ninjas of the 5 great ninja villages are the 5 most powerful ninjas in the Chunin exam. But I think that the first place of some villages may not be as good as the second place of Woodleaf. Well, maybe even Ibixi, that Woodleaf guy, is not as good as him. In the distance, Kurenai looked at Ibixi in surprise. This is too cruel. You even want to ridicule your own script. Ibixi said with a dark face. He added it himself. Marky's underling beside him scolded angrily. Make it clear, who are you referring to by some villages? Asma sighed pretentiously. Do you want me to make it clear? It's San Crypsis, where your boss is missing Yunin, who is rushing to graduate, and Rock Crypsis, where a Jonin can't beat a Genin. Yuki, who was watching the show in the crowd, suddenly had a dark face and jumped out. Bastard. How dare you look down on our Yunin? Asma showed a hint of surprise and immediately yawned. Sorry, I refuse to communicate with trainees like you. Yuki shouted angrily. Bastard, I'm going to hit you. Marky squinted his eyes. Wait for me to finish. I said it first. He came to me first. Asma said disdainfully. With just you? You. Just as the few of them were about to draw their swords, a gentle voice cut in. Sorry, Asma has caused you trouble. Hey Garashi, I didn't bully them. He's Shimizu Garashi? Yuki and Marky were shocked and looked at the boy who was talking. He was handsome, gentle, and refreshing. Just one look was enough to make people like him. However, they reacted quickly. Wait, what do you mean you didn't bully us? Asma rubbed his fist. Do you want to be beaten up? Garashi pressed his shoulder. If you hurt a candidate before the exam, you will be banned from the exam. What do you mean? Are you saying that we will be hurt by him? Garashi waved his hand. Of course not. You must be very strong to be able to represent your village in the exam. Then let him fight with us. Garashi was surprised. 2 against 1? That's true. Both Yujito Ni and Marky were furious at Shushi's provocation. 1-on-1, it's a 1-on-1. Garashi looked embarrassed and finally smiled bitterly. Let's choose a method that won't hurt each other. Although the format and content of the exam changes every year, the venue generally doesn't change too much. Why don't we see who can pass through the forest of death the fastest? Yuki and Marky didn't want to be disqualified, so they had to agree. Just you wait, I will win. After the incident subsided, Asma couldn't help but laugh. It's really smooth. Well, it's good that their team leader didn't follow them. After all, they have dozens of people and those ninjas can't follow them every day. Asma said. Of course they can't follow them every day, otherwise how can they gather information? Garashi shook his head slightly. Gather information? You don't think they're that honest, do you? Since they agreed to hold the exam in Woodleaf, they probably want to find out about our military distribution. What should we do? Should we hurry to remind the old man? Do you think Naruto-sama didn't think of this? Then why did they agree? Asma was confused. Of course, because we don't have a military distribution at all. Garashi chuckled softly. Don't worry, it's too late for them to know now. On the one hand, the ninjas who came to participate in the exam are equivalent to hostages. On the other hand, Woodleaf's preparation should be completed soon. In short, they have missed the best time to act. Asuma had a strange look on his face. Then aren't they about to die from anger? Garashi sighed. They probably didn't expect that Woodleaf's military would be lax to this extent, right? Asma shook his head and threw these complicated thoughts aside. By the way, Garashi, since you want to expand your influence, why don't you pull Kirin and Rock Crypsis in? If you defeat the 4 major ninja villages at once, won't the effect of winning over the small ninja villages be better? Garashi raised his fingers. First, if you encounter too many ninja villages at once, it's easy to be noticed. Moreover, after they hear about this competition, maybe they will feel despised and take the initiative to ask to join? Second, who said I plan to win against them? Asma was startled. You don't plan to win? Shushi nodded slightly. Showcasing your strength should be reserved for the final competition. As for this competition, I just don't want them to hinder my plan. Chapter 99. 2 days later, in the exam waiting area. Is he Shimizu Garashi? He's so handsome, he looks like a prince from a fairy tale. Love-struck fool. He's just mediocre. But Yunin's to Yuki, hee, they're super cute. Hey, are you here to take the Chunin exam or to participate in a beauty contest? Yes, if you want to pay attention, you should pay attention to their strength. They're all contestants from the 3 great villages. Speaking of which, that San Crypsis Marquis seems to be one of the 3 who made the agreement. Why didn't anyone mention him? Who knows, maybe he's too ugly. Under the deliberate spread of some intentional people, a small competition has become a power game between the 3 great villages. In Woodleaf's area, Asma looked at Garashi with resentment. They obviously made an agreement with me. How did it become you? At least someone mentioned San Crypsis Marquis, but he was simply forgotten. Garashi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Maybe, your sense of existence is too low? Asma stood there stupidly, trembling with anger. Can this world be any better? At this time, a ninja from Rock Crypsis came over. Shimizu Garashi, I will reach the finish line faster than you. Garashi blinked. Excuse me, you are? Damn, I'm the Fist of Monolith of Rock Crypsis, Purple Earth. Purple Earth glared at Garashi. In his view, how could Garashi not know him, the strongest genin of Rock Crypsis? He deliberately pretended not to know him. It must be to humiliate him. Fist of Monolith? Asma, who was ignored again, whispered, a genin has a nickname? Too shameful. Just you wait. Feeling humiliated again, Purple Earth left angrily after saying those words. Seeing this, everyone's eyes couldn't help but look at Asma. Asma didn't notice. Why are you looking at me? Ibiki patted him on the shoulder. It's a pity that you didn't come to our intelligence department. On the other side, Kirin's area. If you don't kill, another girl in the team asked, should we also announce it? We can't let others forget Kirin, right? Empress Shomiai shook her head. It's not necessary. The final result. Zabuza looked at her with some surprise. It seems that the teammates that the higher-ups arranged for me are not all trash. Ziyi said frantically, who are you calling trash? If you don't kill, sneered and closed his eyes. The ninjas of the small countries were scattered and stood separately. Among them, 3 hidden rain genin were looking around curiously. You really sneaked in. Is this Sensei's hometown? There should be a lot of people like us who hide their identity. After all, there is too much hatred between countries. If we don't hide our identity, we might be killed one day. Woodleaf should also know this, so he didn't deliberately pursue it. In short, be careful. By the way, can you still move blindfolded? Don't worry, I'm a perception ninja, and don't you guys be my eyes. Ding ling ling. Garashi, let's go. What are you still looking at? Shushi retracted his somewhat peculiar gaze and followed after him. The first exam was a theory exam. Although it was some very basic knowledge, there were still many people who couldn't answer it. So, in less than 10 minutes after the exam started, the classroom was full of people dancing. Garashi didn't care. After answering, he began to close his eyes and rest. Only when some people changed the exam paper he would punish them. Therefore, in the examination room, there were a few more candidates who were trapped in genjutsu and were dancing in the square. 2 hours later, the exam was over, and the results were given on the spot. Less than half of the candidates were screened out, and the rest all entered the second exam. Seeing this situation, many of the candidates were disdainful. That's it? The Chunin exam organized by Woodleaf is too simple. That's right, this kind of difficult question can't make the gap at all. In the midst of these arrogant clamors, a somewhat feminine-looking man stood out. I'm the examiner of the second exam, Orochi Maru. As soon as the voice fell, the clamoring voices disappeared instantly. As a Sannin, Orochi Maru's reputation in the ninja world is naturally very famous. The content of this exam is very simple. You just need to pass through the forest of death within 3 days. Hearing this, the candidates present couldn't believe it. Isn't this exam too simple? But before they could be happy, Orochi Maru smiled gently. However, many of the candidates seemed to be complaining that the exam was too simple, so I will slightly increase the difficulty of this exam. Many of you may know that I have a summoned beast called All Snakes. Hearing All Snakes, many people's forehead oozed fine sweat, and then they glared at the group of people before. It was this group of idiots who thought the exam was simple. I will put it in the forest of death, and your task is to enter the tower in the center of the forest of death alive while being chased by it. Many candidates who knew the inside story directly collapsed. What kind of joke is this? This is simply murder. Being targeted by such a monster, it's absolutely impossible to survive. The group of people who had been clamoring earlier were now trembling in fear. Why did the surrounding examinees suddenly look at them differently? One of them was still somewhat unconvinced. Isn't it just a summoned beast? What's there to be afraid of? Orochi Maru gave him a thumbs up, and then casually summoned All Snakes. Orochimaru, you rascal. All Snakes was scolding unhappily, but when they took a closer look they instantly drooled. Hiss, hiss, are these little cuties my sacrifices? Seeing the mountain-like shadow and waterfall-like saliva, those candidates who didn't know how terrifying all snakes were immediately directed their fierce gazes at those who were clamoring. Orochimaru smiled gently. Don't be anxious, they don't belong to you yet. Only when you catch them in the forest can you start eating. All Snakes laughed loudly. Hunting before meals? I like this game. After saying that, it stared at the crowd with its terrifying vertical pupils. Let me see whose meat is the most delicious. N? This aura. And N? This aura. All Snake's pupils violently contracted twice, and then they glanced at Orochimaru with dissatisfaction. There's actually a fellow among these sacrifices that this snake finds troublesome. Forget it, when the time comes I'll just pretend that I didn't see them. Thinking of this, all Snakes laughed sinisterly, and slithered their huge bodies into the forest. Orochimaru narrowed his eyes. All Snakes has the sharpest intuition. Did it detect a dangerous aura? Chapter 100. After watching all Snakes enter the forest, Orochimaru clapped his hands and said, "Those who agree to take the exam, come and sign the death certificate. Those who are afraid, it's not too late to withdraw from the exam." Although there were a lot of people who were in despair before, only a small portion of them chose to withdraw from the exam. This was not difficult to understand because the threat of all Snakes was the same to everyone. What they needed to do was to hide and escape. In the eyes of the weak, this was what they were best at. As for the strong, they also had their own confidence. Of course, the final result was that all Snakes would be able to eat their fill today. In this silent atmosphere, Yuki confidently swung her ponytail. "Shimizu Garashi, you weren't scared by that big worm, right?" Garashi smiled gently. "It's okay, it's not a big problem." "Then you better hurry up, I don't want to wait." "Hehe, I'll try my best." How is that possible? This confidence must be fake. Purple Earth stared, trying to see if Garashi and Yuki were weak. Facing such a terrifying monster he had no confidence at all. How could they be so calm? But his eyes almost popped out and he didn't see anything strange. Instead he found that their teammates were also very relaxed. As for San Crypsis, Marky and Kirin, if you don't kill, although they weren't as calm as the previous two, they weren't nervous either. This discovery made him feel even more hopeless. Could it be that they are all so strong? Am I the only trash among the strongest genin in each village? Soon, everyone entered the forest of death one after another. By the side of a crystal-clear river. There are 44 entrances to the forest of death. This is troublesome. Do we have to find them one by one? Asuma sat on the ground with some distress. Since Garashi has already thought of this, he must have already prepared a way to find them. Kurenai said confidently. Garashi sat cross-legged on the ground and chuckled softly. I was just about to test a technique. I'll have to trouble you to protect me for the time being. Asuma patted his chest. Leave it to me. Red also nodded vigorously. I will never let the enemy disturb you. In fact, they were overly nervous. As a powerful team that was well known among the rookies, ordinary teams did not even dare to approach them. Not to mention the topic of this exam was survival, not killing. 5 minutes later, an immortal face with eye lines appeared on Garashi's face. Fresh and natural, ethereal and elegant, as if it had a different kind of charm. This Garashi looks even better. Red pretty face blushed as she looked at Garashi in sage mode. Didn't Sir Jiraiya say that sage mode would severely reduce his looks? Asuma's eyes were in a daze. He originally wanted to use this opportunity to defeat Garashi and make a huge breakthrough from nothing. Garashi opened his eyes and stood up. Maybe Sir Jiraiya has some misunderstanding about his looks. Asuma was enlightened. That's right, the prerequisite to reducing one's looks was to have good looks. Red pretty face blushed as she urged, Garashi, how do you plan on using sage mode to find someone? Everything in this world has spirituality. By listening to their voices, they will be able to point me in the right direction. Garashi bent down and dipped his right hand into the river. Asuma's eyes widened. Listening to the voices of all things? That sounds amazing. Red nodded. If this is used in war, wouldn't we know the enemy's movements clearly? If the range is too large, it will exceed the limits of my ability. However, Garashi smiled as he stood up and looked ahead. If you don't kill is not a problem. The sun shone through the lush foliage and shone on the pale faces of the Takajin genin. Help who can save us? Isn't the topic of this exam about escaping? Why are we killing each other? In front of them, if you don't kill was silently wiping his blade. He didn't want to enjoy the fear of his enemies before they died, but he wanted to see if he could lure out the ninjas from the same village. If you don't kill, there's no need to kill, right? Empress Shomiai frowned. She didn't resist killing, but she hated meaningless killing. We are now being hunted by that big snake. Passing the exam as soon as possible and entering the central tower is the right choice. If you don't kill's eyes were wanton. Don't you think it's exciting to hunt others while you are being hunted? Seeing that their teammates couldn't stop him, the three Takajin genin finally despaired. They cursed, "You lunatic, pervert, demon." If you don't kill looked at them quietly. Although he was cruel and easily angered, he wouldn't get angry with a few dead people. It seems that no Takajin will come to save you. Then become my practice of killing. Ding. If you don't kill, short blade was hit by a shuriken. The blade trembled, and even he was pushed back 2 steps by the force of the impact. This power. If you don't kill looked in the direction where the shuriken came from with fanatical eyes. In the shadows of the forest, a boy with eyeshadow walked out. It's you. Although he didn't know why the boy changed his appearance, if you don't kill didn't care. He was so excited that his body trembled slightly. I only wanted to lure a few Takajin, but I didn't expect to catch a big fish. Big fish? Do you think I'm your prey? Garashi laughed. It's Woodleaf Shimizu Garashi. Takajin, who was sitting on the ground, was ecstatic. This was real strength. Empress Shomiai and Violet Knight stood up vigilantly. Although they didn't like if you don't kill, they still had to stand together in the face of a strong enemy. Moreover, if you don't kill was forced to take 2 steps back with just a shuriken. This kind of strength is really terrifying. They knew if you don't kill strength, and because of this, they understood how terrifying he was. Even if there was only one person, that kind of aura suppressed them to the point that they almost couldn't breathe. Don't attack, he's my prey. If you don't kill warned, then his eyes were fixed on Garashi. My silent killing technique was honed in the midst of slaughter. Killing an opponent like you would give me a greater boost than killing 10,000 of them. If you don't kill raised his left hand high, and the surrounding fog suddenly filled up, leaving only his voice echoing in the fog. So I won't test you. Next, let me use my silent killing technique to send you on your way. A ghostly airflow flashed through the thick fog. It was the ultimate killing technique that combined his killing intent and chakra. Suppressing the excitement in his heart, if you don't kill quietly approached. In the thick fog, Garashi sighed softly. In sage mode, his perception was magnified more than 10 times. If you don't kill, silent movements were like 100-watt light bulbs swaying in front of his eyes. What an eyesore. Then, under if you don't kill shocked gaze, Garashi rushed forward and sent him spiraling away. Blat. The fog dispersed, and everyone saw if you don't kill gracefully slide down from a big tree. Empress Shomiai and Violet Knight, Sigma, degree, this is what you meant by don't attack. Chapter 101. At the same time, Empress Shomiai and Shursui were shocked. Even with Zabuza's strength, he was still killed by the enemy when he used his ultimate move. This is too exaggerated. Is this the strength of the strongest genius of Woodleaf? He's much stronger than our Kirin. While the two were shocked, they saw Garashi's gaze moving to them, and they suddenly became nervous. What do you want to do? To their surprise, Garashi not only didn't become aggressive, but also said apologetically, "Don't be nervous, it's my fault. After all, the Chunin exam doesn't prohibit killing. But everyone was invited by our Woodleaf to participate in the exam, and this isn't a killing mode. It's a pity to die like this, so I privately ask you to let them go." Are you asking us for help? Empress Shomiai and Shursui couldn't believe it. In their cognition, the strong always dominate everything. Even if the other party broke the rules, the strong can be forgiven no matter what they do. This is the law of survival of Kirin. However, this doesn't mean that they like such cold rules. As long as they are human, they will always yearn for the sun. Garashi smiled gently. Is that okay? Facing this warm and gentle smile, the two little girls inexplicably had a good impression in their hearts. Really, really gentle. Compared with the retarded teammate, if you don't kill, the enemy in front of them is 10,000 times better than him. Wait, if you don't kill, without them knowing, if you don't kill who slid down from the tree has turned into a clone form, and his body quietly went to the woods behind Garashi. I didn't expect these two women to be useful, they actually attracted that guy's attention. Seeing If You Don't Kill with a dark red handprint on his face jump out and stab behind Garashi, the two girls immediately wanted to exclaim out loud. But suddenly they reacted, reminding the enemy doesn't seem to be a good idea. Just as they were hesitating, Garashi didn't look back and slapped If You Don't Kill again like a fly. Sage mode combined with Hashiman Tanku, even if it's only the first 3 gates, it's still powerful. Empress Shomiai and Violet Knight's mouth twitched. They actually believed that If You Don't Kill could pose a threat to the opponent? No longer hesitating, the two said in unison, "Let's go." After that, the two turned around and planned to leave. But after thinking about it, they walked to If You Don't Kill's side, each of them grabbed one of the trousers and dragged the unconscious If You Don't Kill away. Garashi sighed helplessly. If You Don't Kill didn't want to sneak up on him and fought him face to face, he could at least cause some trouble for him. Well, at least I should slap him a few more times. At this time, Takajin and the other two who seemed to have fallen into a dream finally woke up. Lord Garashi, thank you so much. We will remember your great kindness in our hearts. Garashi shook his head slightly. I'm only doing this as the host, I don't want you to lose your lives because of this reason. The three's eyes were incomparably firm. No matter what, you saved us. Don't think too much, let's start the exam again. After Garashi finished speaking, he gave the three a simple treatment. Then he received increasingly grateful gazes from the three. After Takajin and the other two left, Asma and the other two arrived late. Huff huff Garashi, is this the place? Where are they? It's already taken care of. That's too fast. Asma complained, then asked, but If You Don't Kill still attack the other candidates? Kurenai glanced at him, didn't he say that before the exam? Asma snorted, isn't that because the situation has changed? Who knew that Orochimaru would come out with a hunting mode? Other than Garashi, I don't believe that anyone can deal with all snakes. Don't praise me too much, what I lack the most now is the means to deal with such large creatures. Garashi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Garashi, I know you don't want us to relax our vigilance. Asma put his hands on Garashi's shoulders and squinted his eyes, looking very funny, but do you think I will believe your words? Garashi sighed helplessly, let's go back to If You Don't Kill, his strength is not weak. If it's just running away, there should be a certain degree of certainty that he can escape from all snakes. Kurenai added, there are so many prey in the forest, all snakes don't have to keep chasing one person. When they find that the prey is not easy to catch, they will naturally change their target. That's right, that guy doesn't seem like someone who will take care of his teammates. Asma muttered and asked, by the way, Garashi, are we going to keep following them to save people? Garashi smiled and shook his head. Of course not, letting people go twice will arouse suspicion. Asma wondered, but if we don't follow behind, If You Don't Kill kills people, how are we going to save people? Garashi's lips curled up slightly. Don't worry, when I knocked him out, I gave him a little hint. Asma sighed, Garashi, can you not think so thoroughly every time, at least leave some room for me to play? Garashi rubbed his chin. If you don't kill, the seeds here have been planted, and those who can hinder him have been sent to the finish line in advance. Next, we have to save Woodleaf's companions who may be swallowed by all snakes. Asma, I'll leave it to you. Asma was shocked. Save people? It seems too important. Garashi, wait, there is too much room for you to play. Why don't you reconsider? On the other side of the river. Violet Knight grabbed If You Don't Kill's trousers and threw them down, puffing out her chest and raising her head. We saved him this time, let's see if he dares to say that we're holding him back. Empress Shomiai brushed her hair. You better not provoke him, be careful that he doesn't kill you to silence you. Violet Knight's body trembled. No way, if we didn't drag him away just now, he would have been killed by those Takajin. Empress Shomiai rolled her eyes. It's not like you don't know what kind of place Kirin is. Hearing this, Zai hurriedly pulled Zabuza's thigh that she had pulled apart when she was venting. Seeing If You Don't Kill's posture change from 2 to 10, Violet Knight carefully breathed a sigh of relief. Sigh, I'm so envious of Shimizu Garashi's teammate. With such a strong, gentle and handsome person as the captain, it must be very comfortable. After saying this, she looked at If You Don't Kill with disdain. In the past, at least he had a strong advantage, but now, compared to Shimizu Garashi, he was completely defeated. Empress Shomiai nodded in agreement. I really want to use If You Don't Kill to recycle Woodleaf's second-hand genin. At this time, If You Don't Kill's body twitched and woke up. Chapter 102. Noticing the movement, the two of them quickly sat up straight. Violet Knight, who was feeling guilty, even squeezed out a sweet smile. If you don't kill, you're awake. However, if you don't kill completely ignored her existence. At first he was silent, then he laughed wildly, hee hee ha. Violet Knight moved closer to Empress Shomiai and whispered, he's not broken, is he? This kind of enemy is worthy of hunting. Looking at the dark red handprints on if you don't kill's face, Violet Knight couldn't help but ridicule, are you sure he's the prey? If you don't kill looked at her calmly, a hunter hunting doesn't mean he's stronger than the prey, but because he has the heart of a hunter. As for that Shimizu Garashi, he was stupid enough to let us go. With such a weak mind, no matter how strong he is, he's just a herbivore. After that he added, there's one more thing, he's very strong, but he's definitely not as terrible as you think. Hearing his words, Violet Knight wanted to ask, who was the one who was knocked unconscious by 2 slaps? If you don't kill seemed to see Violet Knight's disapproval and coldly said, let me ask you, did his eye tattoo disappear in the end? Seems to be the case. Violet Knight seriously recalled and then said confidently, but what's wrong with that? Idiot. If you don't kill snorted, I saw his eye tattoo fading before I was knocked unconscious, but you didn't notice it when you stood in front of him? Empress Shomiai softly said, you mean his strength comes from that eye tattoo? If you don't kill nodded, although that eye tattoo can be said to be a part of his strength, this kind of ninjutsu that enhances strength is absolutely impossible to have no restrictions. Either he'll become weak after using it, or he needs to prepare in advance. However, from the fact that he dared to let you go, it's most likely the latter. Violet Knight was surprised. If you don't kill, this guy actually has a brain. Empress Shomiai frowned. Are you still planning to challenge him? If you don't kill, corrected him, it's hunting. Empress Shomiai shook her head. With the threat of all snakes, we won't go crazy with you. Violet Knight nodded vigorously. She didn't want to bite the hand that fed her. If you don't kill, he said indifferently, it's better if you leave as soon as possible. Empress Shomiai was not angry. She only reminded him, he still has a bet with Yunin San Crypsis. By the time you catch up with him, he will probably be in the central tower. Violet Knight hid behind Empress Shomiai and said, that's right. If you really want to challenge him, you can wait until the official match. Woodleaf will definitely not let a genius like him be killed by me, so my only chance is in the forest of death. Although I also think that Woodleaf's side will most likely break the rules if this really happens, but Empress Shomiai couldn't help but complain, it's too unrealistic for you to say that you want to kill him. I won't deny that losing to him in the official match is also one of the reasons. If you don't kill didn't hide his thoughts. No matter how good a hunter is, he still needs a suitable environment to set up a trap. As for the time, I'll make him stay. Violet Knight looked at him suspiciously. Who do you think you are? You think you can make him give up on the bet? If you don't kill, narrowed his eyes. Doesn't he want to pretend to be a good guy? I'll let him pretend. Empress Shomiai's pupils shrank. You want to kill him to force him to come out? Kill him? With such an exquisite feast, who would be interested in those crude snacks? If you don't kill, licked his lips and said with a crazy look in his eyes, I'll only seriously injure them and then tell them that the only one who can save them in this forest is Shimizu Garashi. The 2 girls weren't surprised. After all, many people knew that he was the disciple of Princess Katsuyu. If you don't kill was full of confidence. As long as he still wants to pretend to be a good guy, he will definitely stay. Moreover, it will also consume his chakra. Empress Shomiai and Violet Knight looked at each other. Sure enough, compared to Shimizu Garashi, this guy was simply an evil villain. In a forest, 2 tangy ninjas walked timidly, looking left and right. The tangy ninja next to them sneered. No way? Is there really someone who is afraid of a snake? Idiot, aren't you afraid? This kind of big snake is the best. As long as I dig a hole in its path and wait for it to swim over, I can hide in the hole and slide. Why are you looking at me? You, behind you, the 2 tangy ninjas said in fear, then turned around and ran. I'll leave it to you, hurry up and slide. The sliding kick ninja turned his head around stiffly, and he happened to meet 10,000 snakes' kind eyes. Little ninja, give it a try. Wow. Mom, help. Seeing the sliding kick ninja turn around and run, the snake dowager shook her head in boredom and swallowed him in one gulp. Burp, comfortable. Just as they were about to catch up with the 2 tangy ninjas who ran away, they suddenly heard a fierce quarrel. Comparing the number of people they heard, all snakes silently lowered their body and slid over. On the other side of the forest, Woodleaf's group and Rock Crypsis's group of 6 were confronting each other. Good luck they met Woodleaf's people so soon. It can also be said that their luck is too bad. Seeing the provocative look of the other side, Bordered Soil took out his kunai and pointed it at the rock crypsis. This is a survival battle, it's not good for anyone to attract all snakes. Several rock crypsis laughed. How can all snakes be so easy to meet? Why don't you call its name and see if it will come to save you? Because Kakashi has been promoted to Chunin, Metke, who filled the gap in the team, said unhappily. Do you want to fight? 6 against 3, we have the absolute advantage. If you want to blame someone, blame your woodleaf Shimizu Garashi who used despicable means to kill our rock crypsis as ninja. Bordered Soil sneered loudly. Don't tell me it's the 2 rock crypsis jonins who were killed by our woodleaf's genin? Metke on the side was surprised. Amazing, did Garashi-san kill a jonin? Bordered Soil waved his hand. For Garashi-san it's a piece of cake. Seeing the 2 talking as if there was no one else around, the rock crypsis felt their lungs were about to explode. Bastard. Watch me kill you. Kill them and avenge Yangdor-sama. Just right, I'll let you see the power of the Uchiha. Bordered Soil quickly made hand seals, but before he finished, he saw a green whirlwind rush out beside him. Ah! Watch my woodleaf's great whirlwind. Almost in an instant, the 6 rock crypsis jonins were all knocked down. Seeing this, Bordered Soil silently shed tears. Bastard. It's the same as Kakashi, can't you leave 2 for me? On the other side, the 6 rock crypsis jonins were also crying. It shouldn't be. The script shouldn't be like this. Obviously, it's just an ordinary jonin that wasn't mentioned in the intelligence, how can it be so powerful? Didn't Magic Leech Sama say that except for Shimizu Garashi's team, all the other teams can fight? Even an ordinary woodleaf jonin is so powerful. Could it be that the most powerful woodleaf jonin can really kill our rock crypsis jonin? After all, the main character's power level was too weak, and he wouldn't be able to do anything flashy. Some readers might say that the main character is weak? Cough cough, those who are familiar with me probably know that I'm the type of person who doesn't know how to write if the main character isn't strong enough. That's because it's too risky to cause trouble when you're weak. Only by standing at the top, at least on the surface, can you bear the risk of backlash. In my opinion, no matter how scheming you are, you still need to have the corresponding strength. Also, I think that I'm the kind of author who starts low and goes high. Like I said in the previous paragraph, it's hard for me to start in the early stages, but the early reviews of this book are at least much better than the previous 2 books. The more I read, the more exciting the plot becomes. Finally, let me reveal a little. The middle period mentioned in my introduction is marked by the QB Rebellion. Before that, the protagonist will only affect part of the plot. From here on out, the plot will go berserk and enter the sea. Bah, the great ninja era. Chapter 104. Seeing them like this, even the kind-hearted Lin couldn't help but say, if you're so weak, why do you still want to learn how to fight? Heartbreaking. The rock crypsis genin wanted to retort, but when they looked at Metke who had the word ordinary written all over his body, they couldn't help but wail in their hearts. As a genin, I'm sorry. Bordered Soil rubbed his fists and walked out. Hee hee, you're looking down on us, aren't you? A few rock crypsis genin panicked. What are you trying to do? I'm warning you, if you attract all snakes, it won't be good for anyone. Bordered Soil imitated their previous arrogant behavior and shouted, all snakes aren't that easy to meet. Why don't you call out their names and see if they'll come to save you? All snakes, hee hee, I'm here. Hearing the voice behind them and the surroundings being shrouded in shadows, the rock crypsis genin turned around in fear, just in time to see a big stinking mouth biting towards them. Idiot Magic Leech F***CK. This last thought flashed through their minds and they were swallowed by all snakes. My stomach is quite big, you guys can hide in it and sleep for a while. All snakes grinned maliciously, then their cold eyes swept over Bordered Soil and the others. Next, it's your turn. Being stared at by all snakes' terrifying eyes, Bordered Soil's hands and feet were a little weak, but he still stood in front of Lin and tried to play the emotional card. One all snakes boss, hello, actually we're from the same village as Orochimaru. Oh, all snakes suddenly understood, then snorted. Then I'll allow you to choose one way to be eaten by me. Seeing the human-like playful look in all snakes' eyes, Bordered Soil cried out in pain. I'm sorry, I'm the one who got you into this. Lin pressed on his shoulder and said softly, Bordered Soil, it's not your fault, even if you didn't say those words it would still come out. But. Bordered Soil could feel that Lin's palm was trembling slightly. Thinking of how Lin was trembling in fear but still comforting him gently, Bordered Soil wiped his tears, sniffled and shouted, "Hey, if you want to eat me, let the two of them leave." The snake dowager looked at him as if he was an idiot. "If I could eat three, why would I only eat?" At this moment, a strong chakra burst out. Open. Open. Wood leaf whirlwind. Amazing, Metke might really be able to. Bordered Soil's eyes widened. He didn't expect Metke to have such a powerful move. But before he could be happy, he saw Guy kick all snakes, and then he was sent flying by the scales. "This brat actually kicked me a little." All snakes were shocked, but they still said, "Brat, are you tickling me? Damn it, it still doesn't work? Then I can't give up." Bordered Soil wiped his tears and began to form a seal. Fire release, grand fireball technique. With Guy as an example, all snakes didn't dare to be too careless. Then they saw a few small flames floating out of Bordered Soil's mouth. All snakes were stunned and laughed until tears flowed out. "Ah, is this the grand fireball technique? Brat, you're not trying to make me laugh to death, are you?" On the side, Guy struggled to stand up and said in shock, "Bordered Soil, will this method work?" Bordered Soil's face turned red, and for a moment he couldn't tell if Metke was really shocked or laughing at him. "Unfortunately, I don't know how to tell jokes." Metke sighed and then his eyes sharpened. "However, I also have my own ninja path." Bordered Soil's little face twisted. "Who said that my ninja path is a joke? Next, it's time to practice my ninja path. Fifth gate, stop gate." At this moment, a familiar voice came from afar. "Don't worry, it's not time yet." The three of them were startled and immediately cheered in ecstasy. "Great, it's Garashi Senpai. Ah, we don't have to die." Although all snakes were very strong, they benefited from the perfect image created by Garashi, so in their eyes, there was nothing that their senpai couldn't do. Could it be those two brats? Seeing their relaxed and cheerful appearance, all snakes became slightly vigilant. Soon, Garashi and the other two appeared in all snakes' line of sight. Oh, so it's not them. Although Garashi's speed wasn't something a genin could display, all snakes didn't care at all, and their pupils returned to their playful and tyrannical look. "Are you okay?" After landing, Garashi first asked with concern. "We're fine." Lin shook her head and then reminded, "Senpai, be careful of this big snake." Garashi nodded with a smile, then turned to look at all snakes. "There are so many prey in the forest, there's no need to keep an eye on them, right? How about we end it here? Just treat it as giving me face." "Who do you think you are?" All snakes' nostrils spewed out 2 streams of white smoke, and then their pupils suddenly contracted. "You brat, there's a smell on your body that I hate very much." So you're the contractor of that group of slugs. Brat, you don't think that the relationship between the 3 holy lands is very good, do you? All snakes' bodies suddenly leaned over, and their terrifying snake heads were placed in front of Garashi. "I'm now itching to eat you." Shushi didn't panic. He looked at the cold vertical pupils in front of him and chuckled. "I'm not a snake lover like Orochimaru-sama. If a pet doesn't obey me, it will be punished." All snakes didn't have time to get angry before they saw the brat that they hated step on their nostrils with a teleportation technique, then rubbed the blue ball and pressed it toward their eyes. How can he be so fast? All snakes panicked and subconsciously closed their eyes. Then there was an incomparably painful roar. Chapter 105. In the forest, all snakes' left eyes oozed blood, and they rolled and screamed in pain. "Damn brat, I must bite you to pieces." Garashi also sighed in his heart. "I really lack the means to deal with these large creatures now. With the power of the original version of Rasengan, it can't even break the eyelids of all snakes, and it can only hurt them with the power of vibration. If it were other hard parts, it probably wouldn't even feel the vibration. However, even without those powerful means, it won't be too difficult to deal with this stupid snake." Garashi's eyes were calm and he pressed another Rasengan. "Get off me, get off me." All snakes were in pain, desperately shaking their heads and rolling, trying to shake Garashi off their heads. However, Garashi's feet seemed to be rooted on their heads, and no matter how they shook, Garashi stood still. For a while, trees were broken and rocks were shattered. The forest, which used to be calm in the past, was a mess in an instant. Worried about being affected by the chaos, Asma and others hid in the distance early. Bordered Soil shouted excitedly, "Too powerful, that big snake is no match for Senpai at all." Asma shook his head. it's not that simple. Although all snakes can't use ninjutsu like Jiraiya-sama and Tsunade-sama's psychic beasts, their defense, attack and speed are all first class. Even if Shushi's attack was successful 100 times, it wouldn't do much damage to him. However, the Snake Dowager's attack could severely injure Shushi just once. Hearing this, Lin was a little worried. What should we do? Should I take the initiative to give up the exam and ask Orochimaru-sama to save Senpai? Kurenai smiled and comforted. Don't listen to Asuma's nonsense, he has more confidence in Garashi than you do. Seeing the others looking at him, Asuma chuckled and said, I'm not lying. However, the premise of serious injury is that it works at least once. With this stupid snake's ability, even if it dies of exhaustion, it won't be able to wait for that one time. In the arena, the Snake Dowager had already gone mad with rage. Although the little bug didn't cause much damage to it, it was like a mosquito buzzing around its ear, making the snake feel annoyed. Since you don't want to come down, then die for me. All Snake's eyes flashed with a trace of fierceness, and they directly hit the ground with their heads. Bang, bang, bang. After hitting all snakes more than a dozen times, they stopped a little dizzy. Their two eyes squeezed to the middle. Finally, they couldn't see the annoying snake's figure. But before it could be happy for a few seconds, Shushi used the body flicker technique again. Ah! All Snake's body suddenly slammed into the left side. Boom! The mountain was cut in half, and Garashi was also sent flying. Finally, all Snakes heaved a sigh of relief, then saw Garashi step on the splashing rocks and jump towards them. Too much bullying. In anger, all Snakes couldn't care less. They directly used the only snakeskin technique they knew, and escaped from Garashi's jumping range by shedding their skin. Then with a catapult they swallowed Garashi, who couldn't dodge in mid-air. Ah, damn stinky brat. All snakes vented their anger by laughing loudly, but the next moment, their smiles froze on their faces. They saw Garashi standing on the ground, unscathed and playing with a kunai in his hand. Shadow clone? All snakes laughed sinisterly. Brat, how many more times can you clone with your chakra? Garashi shook his head slightly. It's over. All Snakes was startled. You've used up your chakra? I mean, today's battle is over, Mr. Stupid Snake. Garashi threw the kunai behind him. Didn't Lord Orochimaru tell you not to eat things given by strangers? Well, strangers are the same. As soon as his voice fell, Garashi disappeared from All Snake's sight, but the next moment he appeared at the place where the kunai fell. All Snakes were a little confused. Idiot brat, you're acting like a monkey? With a muffled sound, All Snake's eyes widened, and they spat out a thick cloud of smoke. Then blood flowed from the corners of their mouths, and their bodies fell heavily to the ground. Boom. The ground shook slightly and All Snakes struggled to ask, Damn it, what did you do to me? I just put a few explosive charms in your stomach, Garashi said and snapped his fingers. Asuma, it's up to you. Asuma jumped out of his hiding place, took out a stack of explosive charms, and put it in Garashi's hand, overflowing with the aura of a local tyrant. Take it, don't be polite with me. Seeing the stack of explosive charms, All Snake's heart twitched. If it was in the outside world, they wouldn't be afraid even if there were 10 times more explosive charms, but if it exploded inside their body, they felt that they should consider their last words. Thinking of this, All Snakes gritted their teeth. Is it because of the shadow clone I ate before? Garashi smiled slightly. The shadow clone will disappear, but some things won't. As Orochimaru's summoned beast, and a member of the Ryuchi cave lineage that has a long history in the shinobi world, Manda's knowledge is not small, and she quickly understood the reason. That shadow clone also carries a special kunai? Is it the flying thunder god jutsu of Naidame Naruto? In short, we should be able to communicate properly now, right? Looking at Garashi's gentle smile, All Snakes inexplicably felt a chill in their hearts. Under normal circumstances, the ninjutsu mastered by this brat can't threaten them at all, and it's impossible for the opponent's chakra to consume their stamina. As long as it drags on, the snake that wins this battle will definitely be them. But now they also found out that the words of the opponent from the beginning, and the attack, all revolved around arousing their anger, making them lose their mind in anger and finally step into the trap set by the opponent. This feeling, it's like being completely seen through by this brat. Every movement of mine is like a marionette controlled by him. Compared with the two troublesome brats I perceived before, this bastard is the real monster. Thinking of this, All Snakes could no longer feel a trace of contempt in their hearts. I know, I will let them go. Garashi crossed his arms. That's the previous condition. Now, I hope you can let go of every woodleaf ninja you meet in this exam. All snakes were silent, just quietly staring at each other. Garashi chuckled softly. If you're worried about my threat spreading, you can say that you're worried about Orochimaru-sama. There was another dead silence. All snakes said in a hoarse voice, "Okay, I agree." Bordered Soil and the others looked at all snakes in surprise. When did this grumpy guy become so easy to talk to? I'm really grateful. Garashi smiled and turned around. Get ready to go. Asuma rolled his eyes and deliberately followed up, asking loudly, Garashi, what if it digests the kunai with acid and then comes to us for revenge? Garashi smiled and patted him on the shoulder. Don't worry, my kunai is specially customized and it won't be easy to digest it in 3 days. Hearing their conversation, all snakes' eyes flashed. What an annoying brat. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.